Welcome to Cosmic Comics for Friday Night Magic. I'm Kagan, along with my special guest host,
Jeremy.
Jeremy is somebody that we have seen on stream before. I believe he is the holder of one of our more exciting plays involving words leaving me, an Is It Static Caster, and a Kiara's Follower.
Yep.
That more or less wrap the entirety of Rosie's board in one turn.
Yep, definitely a fun play.
So you're excited for some Friday Night Magic?
Definitely excited to see a few interesting decks tonight.
Yeah, I know that both of these decks that we're about to feature are pretty exciting for you. So we have Chris Shipley, who's going to be on a black-blue mill strategy. And then we have Stan Sturtz. Do you want to tell me a little bit about Stan's deck?
Stan's playing a Nivik Cyclops combo deck. It's always fun to see combo in Standard. It's not very common.
Yep, so it's the old... So it was an old deck that used to use Artful Dodge and then any spell that gives double strike. But Artful Dodge left, but you still have Teleport. So it kind of replaced that. So little switch out, but the same basic core of the deck is together.
Yeah, not quite as quick as it used to be, but it's still got the power that it needs to win some games.
Yeah, and we've seen that there's so much aggro that most of the decks aren't prepared for that sort of situation where it's just a turn, he goes off, he wins. He's
Right.
not having to race you and interact with you at all. Alright, so let's get into that first match. We're going to be seeing Chris Shipley versus Stan Sturtz. And so we have Chris on the left and Stan on the right. We can see Chris is going without sleeves this evening.
You can definitely see that he's going the mill strategy with a Mind Grind in his hand.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite cards when the limited format came out. It starts out with, is that the Demir Guild Gate or a Watery Grave? I can't quite tell.
It looks like a Watery Grave, I believe.
And then we see the Is It Guild Gate from Stan. And then I believe that's the Murmuring Phantom, the 05 with Defender. So that's going to provide quite a bit of defense here. Yep. As well as if we see Phoenix, that's going to be a good amount of mill as well.
Oh, this is interesting, seeing some
yes,
breeding pool.
Yeah, so some green splashed in there as well by Stan. So we see Chris Shipley playing a Mind Rot, which is actually not something you'd expect to see, but against a combo deck like Stan's, that's going to take two key pieces out of his hand.
Definitely much stronger than it would be against most aggro decks in the format.
Yeah, luckily Stan just found two lands that he didn't need. That's the thing, he only needs about 4 mana to really, go off and go with his combo here. So we see that he's tapping out now, and we are seeing that Nivik Cyclops.
Yep, early Cyclops.
And Cyclops, of course, is a 1/4 for blue-red 1. Has the ability, is it +3/+0 and loses Defender whenever you play an instant or sorcery?
I believe it's +3/+0.
Yeah, and so, along with playing a spell to make it unblockable and a spell to give it double strike, you get most of the way there of killing people. And so, let's see. Yeah, it's just passing again by Shipley, so... Yeah, Chris has just played that Murmuring Phantom and hasn't done too much yet.
He
now
plays... we got a Flux Charger?
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to get Psychic... Yeah, it's the cancel where they get milled to. We see a Flames of the Firebrand and the Assault and Battery, which is one of the keys for getting the double... Assault and Battery is the one from Invasion. Can't remember the exact name of it, but it's the... Ooh, another Mind Rot. Really emptying out Stan's hand.
Yeah, there goes another of his Double Strike Enablers and another Cyclops.
Yeah, so it'll be... Yeah, so we see that Chris is playing little control on his mill side, so...
Yeah, definitely a more control mill deck than the more aggressive Phoenix decks.
Yeah, so, I have to believe that there isn't necessarily a Phoenix in here. So we see a Pilfered Plans as well, so that Chris Shipley gets to draw to and then Stan mills to him. But yeah, I have to believe that even with the counter magic, this is generally going to be good for Stan, because as long as he's patient, he can work up to his big win hand, because he's not going to get milled out very quickly with the cards that we're seeing here.
Exactly. As long as there isn't much more hand disruption,
yeah, and we see
he should definitely be good.
Now we see Teleportal, which is blue-red for a sorcery that gives him +1/+1 unblockable, and so that gives him the +3/+0 trigger, and then he gets another +1/+0 and double strike as well.
So he's swinging for 14?
Yeah, about 14. I believe that's actually, because he starts out with 1, and then, so that's 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, it's 18 actually. Yeah, and then we see Shipley going down to 2. And I know that Stan is putting Magma Jets in his deck as well, so being at 2 is not a place that Chris Shipley can be comfortable with.
Right. It looks like he's going to try a Mind Grind here.
Or it's actually Consuming Aberration. And yeah, there's a lot of cards in Stan's graveyard right now, so that is a hefty-sized gentleman. I don't have an exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's over 10.
Yeah, definitely looks like it's over 10.
Yeah, but
fortunately for Stan, he doesn't need much to win this one.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little too late, and we see a Turn and Burn sent to the face. Yeah, so that's going to be the 2 damage mode, and yeah, it's going to end that game. So
it's a pretty quick victory for the Nivik Cyclops deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's funny because we did see it disrupted quite a bit, but it still only takes. You saw he put him to 2 with basically 2 spells in the turn.
Yeah.
It didn't take a lot of cards to get explosive and get really dangerous.
Yeah, it's definitely a fast combo deck. Would have been a little bit. I feel like if the mill deck was less of a control deck and more of the combo Phoenix mill deck, it probably would have stood a better chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because we didn't get to see that many cards. We're seeing some cards that we don't normally see, like the Mind Rots, for instance.
And Pilfered Plans.
Yeah, Pilfered Plans, and even the Psychic Spear. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Because 1 Consuming Aberration, is easily 2 turn swing, end game.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if there's a lot of removal that's going to come out of the sideboard for Chris, because that's another thing that could be a big problem. And I know Stan plays Mizium Skins to counteract that, but he can still play more removal.
Right. If he doesn't have Mizium Skins, then that Cyclops dies. His game plan gets a lot rougher.
Exactly, because when you're playing that combo, the whole point is you have one thing that has to stay alive, and then you do a bunch of things to make it, Voltron up to this unbeatable death machine.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a backup plan with the Flux Charger, but it's a lot slower.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's go into game 2 and see if we see any sideboarding that's going to make a big difference here. So let's see, it looks like they're resolving their mulligans, and we should be seeing Chris going first. I see a Mizium Skin in Stan's hand already, and a Negate. So he is well prepared for these spells. It looks like he's getting Tomb Scoured for 5 here.
So a little bit more milling going on this time.
Yeah, and we see a Cyclops, a Mizium Skin, and a couple lands. Stan playing his mountain out. And I can see a Mind Grind in Chris Shipley's hand as well. Yeah, I think the big plan for Chris is just getting as much mana as he can to get these huge Mind Grinds.
Yeah.
And an interesting card by Stan now, we're seeing the Goblin Electromancer, which is going to make it just that much easier for him to combo off by making everything nice and cheap.
Exactly.
And then, once again, we see the Mind Grind, or the Mind Rot. Much minding going on. Keys and Qs being minded. But so we see Stan thinking very hard about which cards he wants to get rid of.
It doesn't
here.
look like he has many lands in his hand, so it's a much tougher choice.
Yeah, so a Negate and a Mizium Skin. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty risky.
Yeah, so I think it's telling you that he definitely has that next land, but not anymore after that. And then he has combo pieces. But yeah, we see that Goblin Electromancer is getting in, and Goblin Electromancer by himself, he enables, but he's also the plan himself. He can just get in there and beat if you don't put up any defenses.
Right, especially just that 2 damage, because usually when he goes off, he's going to deal around 18, so that extra 2 is enough.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that last little bit. It's like the old Draco Explosion decks.
Looks like we got an Ashiok there.
Oh, that is an Ashiok, so that's going to accelerate a lot of the mill, but yeah, we see the Negate coming down for Stanley to really disrupt the big key part of Chris Shipley's plan to win this game. And then we see Magma Jet as well, so Stan can do 2 damage and then set up his draw here. So, and that's one of the nice things about Magma Jet is the scry lets you really craft your combo. So it can almost be the equivalent of drawing 2 cards when you're just digging for those combo pieces that you need.
Exactly.
And we see the Electromancer continuing to beat down.
especially doing work allowing him to negate and Magma Jet in the same turn with only 3 lands.
So let's see. So big tap out and
Traumatize.
Yep. So that's going to be half the deck. So we're going to be doing some math.
Definitely a card you don't see played in Standard very often.
Yep. And so looks like Stan's doing some counting here. I don't know if we're going to see a Steam Augury here in response. See another Magma Jet in Stan's hand as well.
So he definitely has some options. You could choose to Magma Jet and put cards on the bottom so they don't get milled.
But you have to admit, Traumatized plus Consuming Apparition just equals dead, though. I don't think there's number of half your deck that is less than 20 typically.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is a pretty sassy combo. And I don't know if they counted out the deck to get half here.
Well, I saw Stan counting the cards in his hand in graveyard and in play, so...
He did it the easier way.
Exactly.
That way you're not counting to 50.
Right. It's much easier to count to 20 than 50 or 40.
Yeah, so we see the very large graveyard building up there for Stan, and then the end of turn Magma Jet as well to, once again, accelerate that clock a little bit and give him that filtering towards getting, if he gets the +1/+0 and double strike, that's 6 more damage, and that's half his life. So he can do that 2 turns in a row. Right. Game over. So yeah, Stan putting some thought into these 2 cards here. And so we see both on top, but I believe they were reordered. And Stan coming in for 2 once more. So putting Chris down to 10. And he passes back. Yeah, it looks like Stan has stopped on 3 mana, but with the Electromancer, I don't think that's actually a big issue. I think he's just waiting in response. And the Mind Grind, it looks like it's going to be for 3. Yeah. So he has to reveal 3 lands before he's done. So there's 1, there's 2, and we got 1 more land until we're done. There's always the dramatic part. And Stan's giving the dramatic look and then reveals. And there's our final one.
Pretty good Mind Grind. Not the best, but
exactly.
Definitely
he
be worse.
Hit the first 2 pretty quick, but that 3rd one strung out for a while. It's also nice when you know that your opponent's scryed and kept both on top, so you got 1 card that you wanted.
Exactly. It's always interesting to see how well a 2/2 can do in 2 decks where they don't have very much removal.
Yeah, and so...
Breaking and entering.
Yep, so I think he's just doing the mill side. Not going to be stealing any of the creatures out of that graveyard. But yeah, so Stan's getting dangerously low here on Library. Yeah, I think in the first game we definitely saw some of the more clunkier filler cards for Chris, and I think we're seeing the much more dangerous, explosive side of his deck.
Yeah, but early Tomb Scour on that breaking gets rid of 4th of the deck right there.
Yeah, and then you have the Traumatize. Yeah, half of what's left. So we see another Electromancer, so that gets mana pretty cheap, but that's going to get Psychic Strike as well. And so, yeah, that mills 2 more, and it looks like Stan's down to probably about 3 cards left in his library here. So I believe we may be seeing our first on-stream decking. Yeah, that's 3 cards, and that is going to be a very, very dead Goblin Electromancer.
That is indeed a dead Goblin.
So it gets Mizium Skin, so that's the so Mizium Skin gets Psychic Strike, which is going to put Stan down to 1 card left in his library.
And he's scooping.
Yeah, he's scooping because he can't get that last little bit of damage because, his creature's gone. So, yeah, we saw our first official decking.
Well done, Chris.
And I know that more than limited, you're a big decking aficionado.
Yeah, milling is definitely a fun strategy, and especially in formats where people don't expect it.
Yeah, going off axis.
Yeah.
Is making people think in a completely different way than what you're actually doing, and that just creates such a huge advantage for your game plan.
Yeah, this is definitely a very interesting matchup for this format. There's not a whole lot of mill or combo decks in the format.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the thing is, creating a different axis is so important because people plan for very specific fair decks. Right. When you just do unfair things, they have to specifically plan for you. Otherwise, you can just walk right through them.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's interesting that we'll be going here to a Game 3 now to see which one of our funky decks will continue to be undefeated. Yeah, because this is round 2, so the winner of this is going to be going into the 2-0. So Stan should be going first here.
And yet again, Chris has a mind grind in his opening hand.
And we see Steam Vents for Stan. And then I believe the Demir Guildgate for Chris Shipley. Then we see the Pain 2 Life for Steam Vent, and the Turn 2 Electromancer to really streamline the mana for this draw. And I see a Doomblade for Chris Shipley, which is being deployed right onto that Goblin Electromancer.
First removal we've seen from either player other than Magma Jet.
Yeah, that is true. It's the first removal we've seen out of Chris Shipley. And I believe, what is the black 2 where you destroy and then mill for, is it their power?
It's actually, yes, black 2, and it mills until they hit a land.
It's Grizzly something. It's really good and limited.
Yes, it's a very good limited card, and it costs a little bit too much to be standard playable, but wouldn't be surprised to see it in a second.
Wouldn't be surprised, and it seems like in this matchup, especially where you're getting gigantic monsters out of that Cyclopses, you can probably just deck them alone with that.
Exactly.
And so we see, it's again Chris Shipley thinking, I believe he has the enchantment that gives the -X, and there it goes, right onto that Cyclops.
Giving -2/-2?
Yeah, so not quite, so it's not quite enough to kill it, but it's definitely going to slow Stan down from trying to be able to combo off.
Exactly.
And eventually it'll get that guy dead. Might be a little hasty to play it before you can for sure make it dead, though. I mean,
but every little bit counts when you're giving something double strike.
Exactly, and I wouldn't. We see that he has a mind grind in hand, so I wouldn't even mind mind grinding for 2, and then you guarantee that you'd be able to kill it next turn.
But he is at 18, so if he had the double strike card and a teleport, he'd be dead right here.
That is true as well. You could go real brave and just mind grind for 1 and do it. It's a gambler, but if you win on that gamble, you're definitely very far ahead of taking away one of those spells. And we see the Magma Jet, I believe this is main phase. And so we have 1 on top and 1 on the bottom.
So he has given +3/+0, but he's also gotten -1/-1 for playing the Magma Jet.
Yeah. So yeah, it's 1 damage, right? And so yeah, we go back to Chris Shipley, and not quite sure what that card is. Oh, we see the Mind Grind coming down for 3, and yeah, this should
kill that Nivik Cyclops off.
Yep. And get 2 more of them in the process.
And that was a very good Mind Grind.
Yeah, because I know that Stan's a little light on threats, because he has the Electromancers and then he has the
Flux Charger.
The Flux Charger. Yeah, and so if you just take care of all... Or I believe that's just for creatures, actually.
Oh, yes. So it might just be for creatures.
Yeah, so I think that's what we were missing. So yeah, I think it's right now -3/1. So we gave it the +1/+0 and double strike.
So it's a 1/1.
So I think it was, yeah. So it should be a 1/1 double striker right now, I believe. Yeah, I don't know the exact count on creatures. It could be that we only see. Yeah, it could be that there are only. No, we saw 2 other Cyclopses. Was there another creature?
There was the Electromancer that was.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so it was at 1, and now it's going up to 4 with double strike with the Mizium. Okay, and then another Mizium gets to 7, and that's going to be 14.
So it looks like that's the end of the game.
Yep, so Stan, kind of out of nowhere, pieced together the victory. And you can see Stan just with the, what every combo player kind of has to do at the end of their game. Is this the, it happened. Yeah, they get the handshake. Yeah, okay.
Combo definitely just comes out of nowhere when it wins.
Yeah, and I've played many types of different decks, but if you want to see where your opponents get the angriest, it's those combo decks.
Yeah, it's definitely not fun to lose to a combo deck, but they're a lot of fun to pilot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it does take a lot of skill because each card, typically in a combo deck, is so key to what you're doing.
Right.
Knows that one leads into another, and if you don't have enough, you just can never really go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to see a very powerful deck from the past re-popping up, and like you said, like, Teleportal's not that much worse than Artful Dodge.
Exactly. I mean, if you have multiple Cyclopses, you can overload it and make them all unblockable, and that can be a crazy situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to Stan a little earlier too, because one of the big stalwarts, because I played that deck online in the past as well, and one of the big important cards for me always was Gutter Snipe, because that gives you a lot more reach than some of the other cards. Yeah, so I talked to Stan a little bit, and he's not running Gutter Snipe, but it's something he's considering.
It is an interesting choice not to play it.
Yeah, but you see that, he likes his, big creatures. He likes the swinging side. He doesn't, like, Stan's very much a beat-down creature type of guy.
Right.
So, yeah, the sitting there and slowly playing spells and grinding your opponent out with value just isn't quite as exciting as gigantic double strike monsters doing, 24 on one turn.
The Gutter Snipe is definitely more of the way that, like, Woody would like to play, where he play Gutter Snipe and just a bunch of burn spells.
Exactly, yeah, just playing Mizium skins and any other card that you can just to protect the Gutter Snipe, rather than actually trying to combo off. Yeah, so that was a pretty interesting round of two decks that you don't normally see.
Yep.
So tonight we're actually not going to be doing breaks. We're just going to go directly from match to match tonight. And so, let's see. Any thoughts going into our next match?
Not a whole lot. A few events that are happening at Cosmic.
Oh, you're right.
We've recently started up a comic book club, and the comic book club is meeting on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock. And if you come and get the book for the book club, it's 30% off, and we're reading some good books.
Yep, and that, of course, is hosted by our good friend of Cosmic Cosmics, Rosie Crow, who, as everybody knows, is by far one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. And we mentioned it on one of the streams before that she typically brings baked goods to these type of events as well.
Yes, she does.
So there's little benefits along.
Yeah, she brought a cake last time. So.
Just a full cake?
It was a small cake, but she definitely brought a full cake.
Yeah, you never look a gift cake in the mouth either.
No.
And so, yeah, I think we're ready to go into our next match. And so for our next match, we're going to be seeing Nick Delaney and my broadcast partner from last week, Brad McArthur. It looks like Brad is mulliganed to 5, though.
Yeah.
And so Nick has actually moved from the mono black aggro deck to Jund. And Brad is continuing to play his kind of bank control deck. We see Elvish Mystic and a Shockland going directly into Court of Krufix. And he reveals the land on top, so he'll most likely be gaining a life next turn.
Courser's very strong in the Jund deck, especially with the Scrylands and the Underworld connections.
Yeah, so there's some turns where you feel like you're basically playing 3 extra cards, because you can get the Underworld, and then the land, and then your normal draw. And so we see he plays the Blood Creep and passes, and we see Polychronos on top as well, so that's signaling some big dangers for Brad. And we see the Voice of Resurgence on his side to slow things down a little bit.
Yeah, Brad's been talking about how his deck has quite the capability to stall out board positions. Things like Voice of Resurgence and Indestructible Lions.
And we see a Rakdos return for 3, taking, I believe, all but 1 card out of Brad's hand there. I see a Azorius Charm and Fleecemane Lion going down. So Brad deliberating. It looks like that card in his hand is probably a land. Yep. The little telegraph in there. And he passes back with staying on defense. Yeah, because he's aware that Nick has 2 Polychronos in hand, so this is a kind of scary place to battle back from.
Definitely scary.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the power of, again, the Courser with the Scry. And Brad is right that he does get to see that card. And so we have a Sylvan Caryatid on top now. And so, yeah, Nick continuing to put it together his plan. And this is a deck that I've played recently, the Jund deck, and it's very decision heavy. And it's an interesting mix of removal and like mid-range creatures and planeswalkers.
Do you know if this is the version that has Domri Raid or not?
I believe he does play Domri Raid in this one, which
Okay.
gives you even more of that Courser value.
Right. The Courser is just a very powerful card in the format right now.
Yep, and I believe we saw a Supreme Verdict from Brad, leaving himself with a 1/1 token. And then we see Polychronos and the Sylvan Caryatid coming down as well. And Detention Sphere on Polychronos. So it's a 1/1 token, and that Damirade as you were just talking about.
So both players are down to top decking.
Yeah, and he's blind looking now since that Courser got wrathed away. And we see the islands being scried to the bottom. So once again,
But when you're in top deck mode,
Yeah,
blind looking is fine on its own.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's definitely a position where Brad's not going to be able to attack through that Caryatid. And we may even... Is that a Frost Breath dragon?
Storm Breath Dragon, yes.
Stone Breath Dragon. And that gets dissolved. And so I believe Brad gave us the quick scry. I didn't even see him look at the card, but
Yeah.
he knew. And yeah, he just plays or he just passes back. And Damirade continues to grow.
Just one turn away from being able to ultimate it.
Yeah, it looks like Nick's drawn a fair amount of lands here. As he's gone up to the, I believe, 7 total mana here. Sorry, 8 even. And then end of turn Advent of the Worm, turning that token into a 2/2. And so we can actually start attacking now and just keeping Damirade from ultimating off.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of perfect timing right there.
Be a rough game for Brad if Nick got like an emblem out.
Yeah, and then there's Reaper of the Wilds, which is one of my favorite cards in this deck, because it just generates so much value with its scrying, its ability to gain both hexproof and death touch.
Yes, giving it death touch and then making it fight with Domri Raid is very strong.
That is very strong. And also just being able to protect it from any removal or any bounce spells as well with the hexproof ability as well.
Exactly.
And also, it's one of those things of when you're in Jund, you also kill a lot of things, and it's a great reward for, being a little homicidal, is that he gets to scry. Although, I believe Nick is not scrying on that one, though.
It happens sometimes. You miss triggers on obscure abilities.
Yeah, and once again we see another Voice of Resurgence. So those removal spells would have to be coming preferably on Nick's turn, otherwise they're not really doing their job.
Which, I'm surprised he didn't have his Reaper of the Wilds fight it right there.
Yeah, I think either it's definitely taking out the Voice of Resurgence, or you could even just do the Death Strike. But I think he's just wanting to keep it alive right now, and just draw as many advantage cards as he can. And yeah, we see the Ancient Ooze now, which...
Scavenging Ooze will be a big threat with how many creatures Brad has in his graveyard at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we can see Brad is down at 10, and Nick's still up at 19, so yeah, it's going to be a big creature that's going to get Nick in a even safer position while creating a huge threat. And so we see Nick goes to his draw, Brad goes to his draw. And so yeah, he's observing graveyard so he knows exactly how dangerous that ooze can be.
Exactly. It looks like Brad has 2 lands. Or 1 land.
1 land in a Fleece Mane, so he takes the damage and makes an indestructible, hexproof, angry monster that's kind of undealable with.
Yeah, I don't believe that he has Devour and Flesh in his deck, so it's gonna definitely stall out the game a little bit.
Yeah, but we're seeing Nick activating that ooze, going through the garbage and taking people out of it. I think the ooze just really hates Oscar the Grouch, just pulling people out of garbage cans all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like, he pulled out the fight with the indestructible creature?
No, he killed the token.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it got pulled away so quick I didn't even notice, because I thought he pointed at the lion, and that's a weird way to sacrifice your Damirade. And so we see another Rade coming out, and I believe he has the option of fighting or drawing.
Which, if he scryed off of the...
Yeah, I don't think he's scryed off of the last one either.
This is a new deck for Nick, so
Yeah,
it's
so, and
a
there
lot
is
more
a
likely that he'll miss triggers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a learning curve with any deck. But yeah, that is a very big, angry ancient ancient ooze, and then the Damirade, decide to fight down, make a 2/2 token. Yeah, because he's just so much bigger that it's just gonna be taking away a fog, basically.
And it looks like he chose not to attack to save his Domri.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, Nick's at 8. Oh, and then Supreme Verdict. So, yeah, that looks like it was a bit of a mistake there. I think he just didn't want to lose his Reaper to a double block from the token and the Lion. But yeah, we see that, the world is ending, and Fleecemane Lion feels fine.
Yeah, it's unusual to see a Fleecemane Lion played in a deck with Supreme Verdict, but it's very strong.
Yeah, it's very strong to wrath a god with your indestructible creatures. Yeah, that's the thing is, Brad is still only at 8 life, so he's easily on life support. We see a third Damirade by Nick Delaney, and he quickly revealed the creature.
It was a Reaper of the Wilds.
Okay, so he's more or less going to be back to the same board state he was, but Polychronos coming in is both going to slow down that Lion and create a real big dangerous threat. But yeah, you're going to see those two bouncing off each other for a while.
Yeah, for at least a turn or two.
Yeah, but once again, we see that Nick is going to have the advantage of being able to search that top card to see if it's a creature every turn. Just give himself that extra opportunity to catch up in this stale position.
Yeah, the occasional card advantage from Domri will probably be the deciding factor of this match.
So, do you know if Brad runs Sphinx Wrath?
I do believe that he put Sphinx's Revolution in his deck.
Because, this is definitely the place where if you could tap the top of it and name a card, it would be that Sphinx Rev to get you back in this.
Yeah, that would definitely get him back in the game, gaining him 5 life and 5 cards.
Yeah, the passing doesn't look like it has too much potential here, though.
Yeah, at least 0-5. Maybe
So we'll see the Rade once again looking at the top here. Nick's trying to find the right number before he decides exactly what he's going to do. But yeah, so looking at the top for a creature again. And Nick's been whiffing a lot. Like I said, he's flooded out quite a bit on his mana.
But he's in a very aggressive position now.
Yep, and that's... Yeah, they bounce off of each other, and then 4 damage putting Brad down to 4.
Brad really needs to draw a Verdict or Sphinx's Rev here.
Yeah, and Brad keeps flashing the camera, I just keep missing him. So a martial law. So unfortunately, I believe that activates on Brad's upkeep to detain a creature, so it's not going to be able to save him here. Unless we see maybe an Azorius Charm as the last card in Brad's hand. So we see a Courser of Crufix coming off the top with the Damirade, and all these from Nick Delaney.
It looks like Brad is bluffing and trying to get Nick to misplay.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see all these at the end of game 1. Like, obviously they're friendly and they know each other's decks pretty well.
Right.
But yeah, like that's a little risky. Like, by the way, I'm running these cards just so you know exactly how to sideboard.
Right.
In case you had any questions of, do I play Dreadboard? Is it?
Nick is a little. He's very confident in his abilities, so
Exactly.
He likes to let people know what he's doing.
Exactly. Let them know exactly how that game ended. Well, this is a very interesting matchup we have going on where we've seen so much aggro, and this is grinding on grinding. Like, I think both of these decks are kind of in response to the metagame that we've seen of so many quick, aggressive decks, and even Nick Delaney getting it popular for other people playing aggressive.
Right.
And then kind of pulling the rug out and, like, I'm control now. Thanks for watching me, do so well with my other deck.
Yeah, definitely mid-range decks that if they can get a threat out against the aggressive decks, they're in a good position to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes happen here. Like, I don't think Brad has the full complement of Supreme Verdicts in the main.
Probably not in the main, but I would assume that in the 75, he probably has 4 Supreme Verdicts.
Yeah, so if he has more on the board, we'd definitely be seeing those come in, I believe, because his creatures are just very, very large on that.
Right.
And so...
And he has quite a few creatures that survive or replace themselves when he wraps.
Exactly.
So definitely works out better for him than Nick.
Yeah, and those Storm Breath dragons are going to be very, very valuable for Nick.
Yes.
Because, especially when they go stairboard, it's pro-white. Like, in a lot of situations, Brad will have quite a few cards in his hand as well, so the monstrous ability will probably even get a little damage in.
Yeah, and it looks like Brad doesn't have very many of any flyers, so it will get through when board stalls out.
Yeah, so let's hop into Game 2 and see how everything plays out. So we can speculate all day, but until we see the action, that's when we know what really happens. So we see Brad starting off with Scryland, and I believe it's a black card. Trying so hard to snipe those with the way he draws them, because he shows them to the camera so good. Okay, Nick mulled the 6 in this game, and we're seeing him lead off with the Stomping Ground, and then a Voice of Resurgent from Brad. Then another Stomping Ground tap by Nick Delaney. And so we're going to be seeing the Silver Fleece Lion.
The Fleeceman Lion, yes.
Fleeceman.
Definitely a more aggressive hand from Brad and not quite as explosive from Nick.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is that with the Jund, you do have a lot of 4 and 5 type of cards. I do see the Miscutter Hydra in Nick's hand, which is a very good card in this matchup, but not particularly this board. And we see Polychronos being syncopated by 1 as Nick got a little anxious to get that guy out and in control on the board.
Yeah. It's definitely odd to see the Jund deck not have a Man Accelerator of any sort by turn 3.
Yeah, and part of it is he is on the mulligan to 6, and so I think he just had lands and spells and was hoping maybe I can draw into an Elvish Mystic or a Caryatid.
Exactly.
And we see that Hydra coming down as a 4/4 now. But yeah, it really has to be on defense. And yeah, with 2 Voice of Resurgence, this is a very dangerous board. And we see, getting in for 4 and sacrificing the Lion. And then a 3rd Voice of Resurgence.
Luckily for Nick, the Jund deck doesn't play too many instant speed removal spells.
Yeah, like we'd probably see Mizium Mortars coming out of the sideboard. But the problem, even with that, is, you Mizium Mortars, and he still has 3 3/3s now instead of 3 2/2s. But yeah, we see Damirade, and he's deciding very hard whether he wants to fight one of those voices away or if he wants to look for creatures, and he just concedes. Because he was at 2, and yeah, that's the thing, is even if you start removing, it just replaces itself with a bigger creature.
Exactly. That scoop seemed a tad premature, but it
he was
probably
at 2
would have ended that way.
Yes. He played out a card, then decided that there's no way to win. But yeah, so I mean, we saw, game 1, we didn't really get to see Brad be as curving out, and that was just pure, efficient, curve out.
Right.
And
along with the Rakdos returns the first game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of it too, as the Rakdos return really disrupted Brad game 1 and got some very critical cards out of his hand.
Rakdos returns with ramp spells is a very strong part of the Jund deck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because as we saw earlier in our first round, is when you disrupt the hand, it takes away so much of the development of a deck if it's not something that just spews its hand out like a mono black or a Boros aggro.
Right.
Okay, so that's going to be leading us into a 3rd and final decisive game here between Nick Delaney and Brad. It's always hard seeing 2 people you've commentated with playing against each other as well, because I don't know who to cheer for here. I have to be impartial. So we see the Overgrown Tomb and then the Scryland by Brad. And it looks like a Sylvan Caryatid coming down as the first play for Nick Delaney.
So Nick will get his early 4 drop in.
Yeah, and that Caryatid's so key because not only is it Shroud and Mana Acceleration, but it blocks all of those Voice of Resurgences as well.
Looks like we have a Courser.
Yeah, Courser showing a Damirade on top. And this is where you're no longer blindly Damirade either.
Exactly.
Although, to be fair, you're still going to tink it up even if you don't have one on there because you want to get him higher up so you can fight more, eventually even get the ultimate.
So the ultimate can be very, very strong with those large creatures like Polychronos.
Exactly. And so I think Brad's pretty heavily telegraphing counter magic here. And yeah, it looks like rather than just run out that Damirade and have it get syncopated, he's just going to wait a little bit and make Brad make a play since he's already ahead on just having the creature on board. And yeah, it looks like that leads to the Supreme verdict. And so, yeah, Nick didn't lose too much to that Supreme verdict, so...
But he is stuck at 2 lands.
Yeah, he's stuck at 2 lands.
But he's definitely playing a little more cautious than he did that second game.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is when somebody leaves up with blue 2 and you've been syncopated already,
Exactly.
it's hard to force out the spell that they know is coming.
And there's the syncopate.
Yep. Yeah, but this is definitely working into Brad's advantage of, A, not being on the mulligan, so he has that 1 extra card. And we see now he's playing out a Fleeceman, and 1 mana short of the Monstrous, though, but we haven't seen that much removal from Nick.
We do know that he plays Dread Boars.
Yeah, we have seen that.
And Mizzy Mortars.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Do you think knowing that you're playing against a deck that's most likely going to have a fair amount of removal, that you'd want to wait a little, like 1 more mana? Like, again, I'm not 100% sure that he has the mana. But yeah, we do get to see the Advent of Learn at end of turn as well.
And
So
Nick playing the Mistcutter Hydra just as a chump blocker.
Yeah, as a 2/2 pro blue, not even chump blocking, like, might be double blocking next turn to try to take down something. Yeah, this is, where the mulligan doesn't get better.
Yeah, mulligans definitely do not help the mid-range deck.
Yeah, and we saw that the Supreme verdict getting rid of that carry did kind of cool, because if you have the carry did, this hand's, more than fine.
Right.
Because we've seen, a couple of horses coming down. The Hydra would have been a 3/3 to 4/4 and would have been able to fight a lot better against these creatures. You see Nick scrying to the bottom off of his land. And contemplating over his decisions, or possibly just his impending doom. And we see the monstrous end of turn there for the Lion as well. So that Lion's not going away anytime soon.
Most definitely not. And there's the chump block.
Yep, and so... Let's see, it looks like a Golgari Charm is getting negated there. Yeah, so every time I see that Fleeceman Lion, I always think of, did you ever remember that song, The Cat Came Back, when you were a kid?
Vaguely.
Alright. I just always remember that song as a kid, and it always reminds me of when he gets monstrous, he's the cat that came back because you can't get rid of him. He's indestructible. But yeah, we saw those Fleeceman Lions be a big part of leading to the victory here for Brad.
Yeah, Fleeceman Lions, once they're monsters, very hard to deal with.
Yeah. And it seemed like perfectly timed Supreme verdicts by Brad as well that were very key to him winning this match as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how many aggressive decks are playing Supreme Verdict nowadays. Like this deck and the Esper Humans deck.
Yeah, and I think on Jaw's version, I think he plays them out of the sideboard. I don't think he main decks his Supremes.
I've definitely seen a few of them that do run a couple main deck, but it's depends on the player.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, where playing a deck and spending a lot of time learning it and developing it is so helpful of learning, are you in a place where you want these Supremes, or is that somewhere that's a little more narrow where there's just matchups where it's more important rather than the general public of decks you're going to be facing off with?
I know that Doff took the Esper Humans deck to the PTQ in Seattle recently, and he was 1 win away from making to the top 8 with Supreme Verdicts in the main. Ooh. So it's a very good choice for the current metagame.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is, that's always that painful feeling when you just miss.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that at the same point, though, it tells you you're doing something right.
Right.
Because just missing means you were that close. Yeah. And that things are hopefully in an upswing, and next time you'll be even closer.
He actually was playing against a Jund deck very similar to Nick's in that matchup, and the only reason he lost was because of Reapers of the Wild, which are very good at taking care of his creatures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes it hard to get through it all, and then creates that huge scry advantage. Where in so many decks, the scry is almost as good as a draw, especially when we saw how in that game 1 Nick Delaney got completely flooded on lands where he wasn't really being able to advance his board at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so those scries would have helped a lot. But yeah, so that's going to be, I believe, moving Brad McArthur to 3-0. And we are working under the same guaranteed prize structure of $100 store credit for first place, $50 for second, $15 for third and fourth along with 4 packs, and then the top 8 get 2 packs. So they're playing 4 rounds top 8, so that's pretty much guaranteed in for Brad. He's going to be dropping Nick Delaney into the winning in or probably drawn in,
Right.
depending on who he meets up with.
Yeah, they both have a very strong chance of making to the top 8.
Yeah, people will definitely be seen later on.
More events coming up at Cosmic Comics. We are going to try to mix up our Friday Night Magic a bit. The first Friday Night Magic of May, which coincides with the release of Journey to Nyx, we are going to be doing a sealed tournament.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that harkens me back to the old days of Cosmic where we actually used to go on a rotating schedule, whereas standard draft. So it's interesting to see that we're going to be putting a little more limited into our FNMs.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to mix it up a little bit, try to get at least one non-standard Friday Night Magic in a month.
Exactly. And when it's sealed, that's also a great thing for getting ready to PTQ as well.
Exactly, yeah. The PTQ season right now is sealed, so...
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, it's easy to get a draft together, but you really need to practice sealed to be ready for PTQs.
Exactly.
And it's hard to get a group of people together and say, I know 8 people who want to get together and, open up 5 packs and make a sealed and then play sealed.
Right.
It's not the same casual, fun thing that you're doing at Denny's at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to get people to want to play or spend that much money on such a short event.
Yeah, exactly. Because, it's extra packs and, you're getting what you open. You're not really drafting, so it doesn't feel as gratifying sometimes.
Right.
Although that skill of deck building is so valuable, and when you really figure out what cards are right and what cards are wrong, it's really gratifying to know that and not have it become much more natural for you over time.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to play sealeds when a set first comes out, and you just get to figure out which cards are good and which cards are deceptive and aren't actually very good.
Yeah, and we've been around enough where it's not as veiled in mystery as it is when it first comes out. Like, I think a lot of people have pretty solid strategies of what they want to do in sealed and what they want to do in drafts now.
Yeah, like they always know that flyers are always powerful.
Oh yeah, yeah. This format's a great format for flyers, and a lot of aggro decks as well. And so it looks like we're going to be getting ready to head into the 4th round here.
I just have to drop the overlay in here.
No problem.
Sorry for the awkwardness.
No problem. So we're going to be seeing once again Stan Sturtz in his Nivik Cyclops combo deck taking on Jasdeep Pannu. And Jasdeep is going to be playing the Esper mid-range deck that we were talking about just earlier as well. And we saw him playing that last week, and we've seen Baldeep play the deck as well. So very powerful deck that kind of excels in all phases of the game if you have the right cards for that phase. But can also kind of trip you up with, drawing Elsbeth in the early game and then getting Soldiers of the Pantheon like turn 12.
Exactly. I know that he's been tweaking with the deck, so it might be a little bit different than it was before.
Yeah, and one of the cards I just mentioned that's just added in is there is one Elsbeth Tyrael that's been added in to give him just kind of that over-the-top late game, as well as being something that works very well with Afara to guarantee him card draw.
Right. Afara is very good if you can guarantee that you're going to be drawing cards, especially with Brimaz and Elspeth.
Yeah, so just a whole bunch of value, and he has to have his tokens ready because he could fill up the board with tokens upon tokens upon tokens very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah, and so we'll head into this game here, and it'll be interesting to see because this is going to be the aggro mid-range versus a combo deck. And I don't know if I assume that Jasdeep would, if he has removal out of his sideboard, like getting a little ahead of myself here, but I don't know whether or not Jazz has counterspells going to be able to fight off a lot of things he wants to worry about here.
I know Jaws is fairly new at Magic, so he doesn't have a whole lot of experience of playing against combo decks.
Yeah, that's true, because there aren't that many in Standard typically, as we see the Godless Shrine shrinking Jazz down to 18, and then the Precinct Captain coming into an empty board. And that Captain's pretty good in this matchup, because there's not that many cards in Stan's deck that can come in and play defense, get it, but we do see the Turn and Burn to put it down.
Yeah, Stan definitely has to deal with that Precinct Captain, otherwise they'll just overwhelm him.
Yeah, because an exponential crew of 1/1s. And I see an Ultimate Price in Jazz's hand.
Which the ultimate price is actually pretty dead against Stan.
Yeah, I don't know if he has any... In fact, I can tell you he has no monocolored creatures in his deck. So, yeah, that's a blanketly dead card as we see the Cyclops coming down and Banisher Priest. I believe that's the alternate art on that, taking away that Cyclops. And that's one of the cards that Jasdeep has added to his main deck as well, as he has expanded on his Banisher Priests. I think part of that was seeing Dane play last week is when your opponent's having a bunch of 7/7s and 8/8s, you want to be able to take care of that problem.
Right.
And that was one of the adjustments he makes as we see Stan playing another Cyclops. And yeah, not a little telegraph that he doesn't have more removal as he takes the time to read it this time. If you have the Doom, you're not going to pick it up and read it.
Right. Looks like he's trying to get in there with the Mutavault.
Yep. So yeah, create a little pressure. Yeah, there's not any zero casting spells I can think of that could create a problem where Banisher Priest could die. So yeah, it's a pretty safe attack there to guarantee some damage in. And we see Brema's coming down as well, so just making this board dominance by Jaws even bigger.
Yeah,
And
even though that Brema's will get blocked every time, it's still going to get 1 damage.
Yeah,
for
but
you.
this is the turn with Jaws at 18, and this is the turn to threaten lethal, but looks like that's not what we're seeing. I think we're going to be seeing the 1/5 flyer.
Yep, Flux Charger.
Yep, so Flux Charger coming in to play a little defense.
This does make the Bremaz not as threatening.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's nice because it can also crowd control those 1/1s every time as well. And once again, Jaws not quite familiar with this deck, and trying to figure out what's going on here.
Flux Charger is definitely more obscure than Cyclops, so it's understandable that he wouldn't know what it does.
Yeah, and Jaws doesn't necessarily know what the combo is, and may not know that he might already be dead.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, because I believe he shocked off of one of his lands, which is exactly what Stan wants. Is he just wants that last 2 damage so that he can get the 2 spell kill.
Right.
That's one of the things that Jaws just didn't know that that's what's going on in this match.
Yeah, Stan's definitely playing a bunch of limited all-stars right now, and Jaws isn't much of a limited player. So.
And this is a much more dangerous attack now that there's actually mana up. So we can see a Mizium, or I guess there's only 1 card left in Stan's hand, but a Mizium skin could be a huge blowout here, as he could basically end up killing Bremaz and the Mutavault here.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does not have a 1 mana instant or sorcery, so just goes down to 10. Once again, Mountain off the top, which is not going to be the answer, and just immediately plays it down. Oh, Stan had 3 cards in hand. He stacked them in a way that was...
He's very good at hiding.
Yeah. But you can see he passes fairly distraught, and we see that he has...
He has the double strike.
I thought I saw Teleportal in there as well. Did he have the combo? Is that 7?
Maybe he didn't pass the turn.
Oh, he didn't pass the turn. I think he might just be killing him. Yeah, I think he might have been hesitant the turn before just because of the blue mana up. And we see that there's nothing but black and white mana right now, so Stan doesn't even have to worry about syncopates.
Yeah, exactly.
And Stan is definitely a veteran player. Stan's somebody who I first started playing with in Invasion Block, which not too many players have, those type of roots. And so he's used to the time where if you see blue, they have counter spells.
Exactly.
There's a time of Magic where you just knew that. Yeah. And right now, there aren't as many efficient counter spells. We're not mana leaking, we're not remanding.
Right,
anymore.
we're just coming out of a time period where Cavern of Souls was around for 2 years.
Exactly.
And so people didn't play counter spells. And
Yeah,
they're
it's
not
kind
as
of a
used
waste.
to playing with them.
Yep. Yeah, so it's interesting, but we see, going off there and, again, from 18 to dead.
Yeah, definitely explosive.
Yep. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of removal those... Again, I'm sure that Jaws is unfamiliar with this deck, so I don't know if he even is aware that his ultimate prices are completely dead.
He'll probably take them out seeing how quickly the Cyclops killed him.
Yeah.
And that's the threat he needs to really worry about.
Yeah, and I know
But he might leave 1 or 2 in.
Yeah, and I believe he has Doom Blades in his board, which will be very important here.
Yes.
Yeah, and so any removal that he can find is going to be the key here. Yeah, so let's go into our game 2 and see whether or not we're going to have the big combo kill out, or if a bunch of little guys and some obsidates are going to do some finishing off for Jaws.
As you can see, Jaws has tried to be a little less serious with his panda sleeves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nice thing that you're actually allowed to have graphic sleeves now, where in the past you weren't able to. So you get to really express your personality, be it by panda, be it by grumpy cat, whatever is gonna float your boat to express yourself visually. I personally had some Pokemon sleeves once that I sported for a while on a dredge deck.
Looks like Jaws played an opposing sovereign, which will be very helpful because of Stan's high toughness creatures.
Yeah. And there's something that's going to have to guarantee a one-turn kill. We see a Sphere of Heliod.
Yes.
But the problem is we also saw Shocklands shocking Jaws down to 16. So there's a good chance that Sphere will never be able to destroy it before it just kills him.
Yes, if Stan's in a very good position where if he gets the teleportal, he is very likely to win.
Yeah. And there's the Banisher Priest once again. So yeah, this is looking a little better now for Jaws because, again, he has a 3-2 Sovereign and a 3-3 Banisher Priest with that Spear, so his threats are definitely more threatening, and he's putting Stan in a place where he has to be defensive, but his creatures don't get to come into play untapped. So he's always kind of half a turn behind. And we do see another Cyclops coming in, and the continued pressure, bringing in another 6. So that's going to drop Stan down to 8. And we're going to see another Banisher Priest. So that change to the deck for Jaws are really working out here in this matchup for him.
Removal spells that are also threats are very key in this format.
Exactly. And, I mean, we know that Stan has Turn and Burns and Magma Jets, but... Oh, Flames of Fire. I think he's splitting, though, and Jaws friendly reminding of the Spear, which, again, we're a little more casual here at Cosmic, because in a lot of cutthroat places... if you forget those pluses, they're not going to let you change it.
Right. We definitely want to have a friendly atmosphere, and if it's not a huge mistake, definitely want to let people realize it. Yeah,
and so I saw a Turn and Burn in Stan's hand, so if he... Oh, detentions for taking the first Cyclops, but it looks like he can get the other one right back from the other Banisher Priest here. And is that another Flames that he just drew? Oh, that's a Magma Jet. So Stan, he also has the +1/+0 and double strike in his hand as well. So he's most of the way to getting his combo off, but he's also at 2.
Yes.
So, yeah. So we can Turn and Burn, but
it looks like this is the game.
Yeah, because he can't Magma Jet one of the guys to kill the other one. So, yeah, he shows Magma Jet. Oh, it's a 3-2. So he can.
Yeah, so then he can turn the other one, but not kill it.
Oh, you're right. He can't turn and burn. But he can turn and just make it an 0-1, right?
But then it gets +1/+1, so he'll still be at 1.
Yeah, he'll go to 1. So it is the sneaky way to get an extra turn. But yeah, I don't think he has enough to go off then. We see a Precinct Captain in Jasdeep's hand as well, which is the real death knell here, and if he gets out of it. But yeah, it's too much there for Stan to recover from. Yeah, so we saw the disruption coming from Jaws that was very key to that match.
Yeah.
Is that, he's fighting so hard to keep the Cyclopses alive. The Spear was a lot more powerful than we thought it might turn out to be. So it took his guys out of the 2 damage range and made that Flames of the Firebrand, which would have been a huge blowout, 2 for 1 and getting the Cyclops back, to just getting the Cyclops back.
Yeah, Spear is very key when it's protecting your removal spells as well as making your threats that much bigger.
Yeah, and it also keeps Stan from going off, where sometimes you'll see that they'll use the double strike if you don't have a guy up, and then they'll try to use another double strike the next turn.
Right.
And so yeah, it makes it so that Stan is stuck into a 1-turn kill, and that's kind of the paradigm that he has to work within.
Yeah, it's interesting that Stan does have green mana in the deck, so that he can use the other side of the double strike card to make it so that his non-Cyclops card can taunt.
Yeah, and so that way guarantees that it can get through, so it's another teleportal basically that can help guarantee to get him through.
Not quite as good as teleportal, but
because
it's
off
still
of the
very good.
very small splash.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get kind of lucky to get mana, but yeah, it's another way to get it done. It's nice to have both halves of that in one card.
Right.
Yeah, so we've seen each deck do what it wants to do, and so it'll be interesting to see in this third game whose plan is really going to be able to take over and, secure themselves a victory.
Right.
So
We haven't seen any of the bigger threats yet from Jaws' deck.
yeah, that's the thing, is we haven't gotten that late into the game either, as, it's very much a race. We see Guildgate coming down for Stan, and then...
Temple of Enlightenment for Jaws.
Yep, so little scrying for Jaws, and it doesn't look like he likes it, but we see the precinct captain. I don't know if I saw a second white source in his hand.
Oh, there's one right there.
Yeah, is that...
Hollowed Fountain, I believe.
Hollowed Fountain.
No, it's another temple.
Yeah, I thought that was another temple, so yeah, that's... The problem is he doesn't have the untapped mana. So yeah, we see... yeah, that's... That one just amused me because it's the...
that was interesting. It was
he went to the face.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Stan understands not just the pro from multicolor, but it's a life gain for each multicolor spell as well.
Yeah, the life gain might be the relevant factor here.
Yeah, because when you're doing exactly 18 to kill somebody, when they get to keep going up, it doesn't work as well. But he does have another magma jet, so
okay,
that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, and so he gets to go back to scrying, and that's trouble for Jasdeep, as you see the combo deck just slam the 2 cards back on top, not even caring about which order they were in.
Yeah, that's not a good sign for Jaws.
Yeah. But we see a Bremaz coming down, and then we see the Cyclops in response. And so yeah, and we see another Cyclops in hand as well, and I believe I saw the Flames of the Firebrand in Stan's hand. And
there's the Banisher Priest again.
Yeah, Stan showing frustration in the number of these, hunters going after his fiends. So we see the draw coming down, that 4th land for Stan. And so, yeah, he can definitely Flames of the Firebrand to kill that priest and get his Cyclops back.
Not only a priest, but that cat token.
Exactly. But it looks like he's just passing. Like he's... I'm not sure if he has a Steam Augury in hand or if he has something tricky. Yeah, I see a Sting Augury. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a card that came in with a lot of excitement around it, and it kind of died down a little bit.
Yeah, this is definitely the place to see it, because your opponent doesn't know what combo pieces you need.
Exactly.
You can easily trick them into giving you at least one of the one that you need.
Yeah, you give them the offer they can't refuse. And so, yeah, we see that the pressure from Jaws is really adding up here, though, as Stan is down to 9.
There's a Blood Baron of Vizscopa.
Yeah, and that's a problem as well. Because, yeah, the life gain's a big, big deal. And, yeah, I think Stan is kind of disgusted a little bit as we see, the Fact or Fiction kind of slinging in disgust.
Luckily for Stan, Turn and Burn is an option if he has one.
That is, yeah, that is true.
One of the few cards that can deal with Blood Baron fairly easily.
Yeah, one of the big problems, though, is he's still at 9, though. So even if he deals with Blood Baron, he has a Banisher Priest, potentially 3 cat tokens, and Bremaz.
Right.
And yeah, he doesn't have the board position to just be, coming out and comboing in one turn, because those Banisher Priests won't let him keep a Cyclops in play, no matter how hard Stan tries. And that's the thing, is he has a grip full of cards that are going to help him win once he gets the Cyclops to stick, but you got to get one to stick.
Yeah, and that Blood Baron is going to gain Jaws some life if he doesn't deal with it. So even if he does get one to stick and doesn't die this turn, he's not going to be able to kill with one swing.
Yep, so we see the Electromancer, and I believe I think he's just short of double Flames of the Firebranding to barely stay alive, so... I'm trying to see... So yeah, he can Flames to kill a token, get back his Cyclops, and then because the Blood Baron doesn't have flying yet, he can chump and get some time left here.
Right.
But yeah, this attack is also going to be putting Jaws back up to 20. And yeah, we see Detention Sphere on Cyclops, and Stan continues to shrug. Yeah, there's...
It's very bad for Stan at this point.
And that's one of those feelings that you get when you're a combo player and your pieces keep getting disrupted, is you just feel like you can't get any traction, and it's beyond frustrating.
Exactly.
It's equally as frustrating as being beaten by a combo deck, I'd say.
Yeah, combo decks are usually you win by a lot or you just lose. When they're in standard, it's a little less so because you have to have a backup plan, but
Yeah, and we see Stan dropping a 6th land here as well, which is also something he definitely does not want to be doing.
it's definitely the most lands we've seen from him today.
Yep. Yeah, and yeah, just a frustrated scoop of, I mean, again, those Banisher Priests all-stars.
Yeah,
Like-
Banisher Priest, very good card, especially in aggressive decks.
Yeah, that was, perfect read by Jaws, understanding the metagame and understanding, that thing that helps him get from that 3 up to his 5 and 6, where his much more powerful finishers are. Where he can get off Blood Baron or get off Obsidat. So yeah, it gives him a bunch extra time.
Yeah, Jaws is very good at, for a new player, he's very good at picking up what the other player is trying to do and adjusting to that.
Exactly. And I think if you have the mental skills and understand the game, I think one of the big advantages of being a new player is you kind of only know the newer cards.
Right.
So you really have almost an encyclopedic knowledge of the cards that are available to you, because those are the only cards you really know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're seeing that where he really knows the solutions to his problems. But so that was round 4. So we see that Jaws guaranteed into the top 8. And so so we're gonna get our exact top 8 list here for you as well.
While we're waiting for that, we
So-
have recently moved the Ladies Gamer Night from being at rotating shops to being at Cosmic Comics every Thursday.
Okay.
So for all those lady gamers out there, Thursdays at 6, come on down. Yes.
Yeah, and that's again another one of those events hosted by our one and only Rosie Crow.
They're actually switching off each week between Rosie and Megan Keenan.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, another lovely person that we always enjoy the presence of here at Cosmic. Alright, so it looks like our top 8. So the match that we're going to be featuring in the top 8 is going to be Cory Jones versus Woody Ciskowski. We're going to have Luis versus Brad, Gary Goki versus Jasdeep, and then Rosie versus Daryl Sturtz. And so Daryl goes by DJ, and he's Stan's brother. And I'm not sure what deck I saw Stan playing all day. I don't actually know what DJ's playing today.
I've seen DJ play a lot of red decks in the past.
Yeah, that is true.
He definitely plays more aggressive decks from my experience.
Yeah, they're both fairly aggressive players. Stan, in his history, was famous for black. Like, you know those history of there's magic players and there's black mages, and they're two different things.
Right.
So it's always interesting to see a black mage playing a not black deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but DJ is definitely a red mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see exactly all the decks we're seeing here. But yeah, it's a good list of names, names that we're familiar with, and some names that we haven't been hearing. With the Sturtzes coming in today and having a great success. And let's see, so another event before we get into the top 8 that I want to mention is tomorrow we're having a tabletop event as well.
Yes, tomorrow, April 5th, is National Tabletop Game.
It's a national event.
Yeah. And we'll be having events going on throughout the day. We're opening early at 10. And there'll be some free stuff given out to people.
Yeah, and they're going to be demonstrating a whole bunch of games. That Star Wars X-Wing Squadron game that we were talking about in the past. I know a game we were playing a little earlier today is actually going to get featured there.
Yes, Boss Monster.
Yeah, fun game. Like, this way, before Jeremy came to work today, had a half hour, just pounded out the game, had a lot of fun.
Kagan never played it, and we managed to have him learn it and finish a game in a half hour. So
Yeah,
it's
and-
a very nice, fun, short card game.
Yeah, so there's going to be, all day tomorrow, bunch of games featured. Come down, have some fun. This isn't a paying a toll. This isn't any entry. This is just come down, have some fun, learn some games. Easy stuff. All right, so I think we're ready to move into our top 8 match here between Woody Ciskowski and Cory Jones.
One awkward second.
So, as we have documented much in the past, Woody continues to lament his O and X record here on our feature matches. So this top 8 might be that moment that Woody finally gets to break through, and we'll be greatly relieved.
And I believe Woody is playing a slightly altered version of Jaws' old Jund deck.
Yeah, it was the one that was famously traded for the Arid Mesas. Yeah, and I know that he and Rosie did do quite a bit of work to tune the deck to kind of fit more of how they wanted to have it work as well.
I know that Cory is playing Witch Stalkers today, so that could be very tough for Woody to deal with.
That could be. Yeah, because, it's all the things that hurt is that the black spells you have to play on your turn, and, you can't even target it with the hexproof. And, that Witch Stalker you're just talking about coming down. And so that's a 3/3 hexproof for green, green 1.
And they'll get bigger whenever Woody plays instants or sorceries.
Blue or black instants or
Yes.
sorceries on Cory's turn. So it's a little narrow, but it's definitely those are the two colors that you're kind of worried about them playing spells on your turn to begin with.
Right.
And so, it hits definitely the black side of Woody's deck here, which is where most of his removal is. And so on Woody's side, we've seen that he's played the Caryatid along with Courser of Prufix. And we see the land waiting on top. And that's going to give him the full Jund complement of mana as well. And that is
Madcap skills.
Madcap skills. So that is some aggression to say the least.
Yeah.
So
six hexproof unblockable.
Yep.
Fairly hard.
Well, it's not unblockable. It's double blocked.
When he has a carry tapped, it's unblockable.
That's a fair point. Yeah, and that's the thing is, all he could do right now is chump block anyway. So it's not really in a place to block. We see the Hero's Downfall on top, but again, that's not going to do too much against the Witch Stalker. Yeah, I think the writing's a little bit on the wall for Woody here. But we see another Courser come down, and then the no life exchange plane of the land. And the world famous shock myself with the land, pass.
Yeah. At least now Woody's in a position where he can double block that Witch Stalker and get rid of it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what card would be for a red or a green that he's holding. Like, we've seen Aspect of Hydra, but it's hard for me to believe in a Jund deck you'd be Aspect of Hydra. And a second Witch Stalker coming down for Cory Jones. So he definitely has the right threats for this matchup.
Definitely. Witch Stalker is a lot stronger than most people give it credit for in the current metagame.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just an efficient 3/3 for 3 is a good creature. Throwing Hexproof on there makes it great. And then there's that little bonus that we've even seen happen here on stream, where people sometimes just need to play that spell on their turn to try to get advantage. And we see Vraska coming down.
And getting rid of that Madcap skills.
Which is an interesting choice, but I guess with two Courser or Crew fixes, he can just chump all day if there aren't any pump or burn spells. But I see a Boros Charm in Cory's hand.
Yeah, Cory definitely likes to play those decks where he plays a threat that someone can't deal with.
Yeah,
and
so
pumping it up quite a bit.
Exactly, and I don't think he has red-white though. I think he has green Sacred Foundry. So I don't think Boros Charm is currently available. Although it could set up we see a Pacifism coming down, take care of one of those coursers on offense and defense, and then he swings in to take down Vraska. Yeah, but at some point, if Woody tries to double block to take care of one of those Witch Stalkers, that Boros Charm can give double strike and have a huge blowout coming out.
Woody's going to have a huge blowout coming anyways with that Rakdos returns.
That is true, yeah. He's going to get to empty out the remains of Cory's hand. Oh, I think he gets to keep 1 or 2 cards, depending on whether or not Woody decides to go for this or if he wants to wait a little bit. Yeah, because they're still both at fairly healthy life totals, with Woody at 17 and Cory at 20. So even though, Cory's threats are definitely more threatening right now, Woody doesn't have to act now or die.
Right.
He has a little time to think, a little time to get advantages, so I don't think he's forced into defensively Rakdos returning here. And so, let's see, 4 mana being tapped down for Woody.
Perhaps Polychronos?
Yeah, Polychronos would be the most obvious card that we would be expecting. There's a bunch of Planeswalkers that he could be playing as well, so it could be a Xenagos possibly. Oh,
it is a Xenagos.
Yeah, and that's one of those great things that it can accelerate you, it can build your board, it can do a lot of really strong things
for
you.
He's using it as an accelerant.
Yep, I think he pumped it Or did he? Yeah.
He definitely +1'd it.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just adding the mana, I guess, to... Okay. Thought he was
And
back.
there's the
There's the
Polychronos.
Polychronos. So,
So we were both right.
yeah. Yeah, Woody, a man of the people, doesn't want anybody upset, so he'll just play both.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we see Cory going in, and yeah, this is a much more stabilized position for Woody. And even though he can't necessarily Polychronos, oof.
There's the new Madcap skills, but it's not as threatening now that there's a Polychronos.
Yep. Yeah, and so I'm not sure what other tricks might be hiding in Cory's hand besides the Boros Charm, which, again, he's not really able to cast right now with his mana being the way it is. Yeah, so at 17, do you risk your Polychronos and a Courser of Crewfix, knowing that if he has any trick, or even, I believe, like a Magma Jet, you're going to be completely blown out here.
Right. Well, I mean, he does have a Rakdos Return in hand, so if he does manage to trade for that Witch Stalker and then Rakdos returns the following turn, he's in a very good position.
That is very correct, but the problem is you're also risking basically your whole board on that as well. And I also don't know if that's going at Xenagos or its face, because that creates a whole nother dynamic that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because your life total, you know, taking 6 here doesn't feel good, going down to 11, but you can live with it, and that's where it is going.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the no block is definitely the safe play.
Yeah, so when it's coming to your face, definitely probably the right choice.
And so we see an interesting card coming down to take advantage of those Madcap skills. And so we go back to Woody. And Woody playing that land off the top to playing it tapped to gain his 2 points of life. Because it's pacifism, so he still gets the life for lands being played each turn.
Yep, it looks like he could offer a trade with his Polychronos now without feeling too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on the defensive side, mind you.
Right.
Yeah, this isn't the place to be wildly crashing with Polychronoses. Yeah, so...
Looks like Cory has 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, and this is one of the very challenging things about Jund, is that just managing your mana can take up quite a bit of time, because you're in 3 colors, and really you get to accelerate a lot out, but you have to make sure you have the correct color combinations for each of your spells. Because you're not base a color and then splashing 2 colors or anything like that.
It's one of the tougher 3 color combinations because there's no Scryland for green-black yet.
Yeah, so you're working a little harder to smooth out your draws.
The Caryatid helps, but the last Scryland would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, and so it looks like we see the Rakdos return coming out.
Getting rid of an Unflinching Courage and a Boros Charm.
Yeah, that Unflinching Courage is scary card.
Yes, if he landed that Unflinching Courage on that Witch Stalker, it would probably mean the game for Woody.
Yeah, so Cory's deck is almost kind of a adult-sized version of Boggles, if you will. He's Voltroning in a very large physical scale.
Right.
But yeah, so we see Woody tanking a bit here. Yeah, because I don't know if we've seen a Xenagos activation this turn yet either.
We have not.
Yeah, and so we see Abrupt Decay on the Madcap skills to once again even things out and make... what was the white guy's name? Is it Hero?
It's Hero of something. I don't remember the actual name.
The exact name escapes, but he's the gentleman who loves auras.
Yeah, he makes auras cost less, and when you target him with a spell, he gets a counter.
Yep, so yeah, he's generally very good when you're Unflinching Courage and Madcap skilling people. But yeah, so pass back and we see...
And there's a third Witch Stalker.
Yeah, a third Witch Stalker, so... But we've also seen multiple Madcap skills go down too, so I don't know how much else Cory has to really get through this wall of meat.
Yeah, without the Madcap skills, it's going to be tough for him to get past that Polychronos.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm not as familiar with Cory's deck, so I'm not sure what other ways he has to get some reach in. Like, if he wanted to have a real sassy card, he could have a Clan Defiance or an Aurelia's Fury. Like, Aurelia's Fury would be a big win, but yeah, it looks like he just scooped up because I don't think those are cards that he has in the main deck at least.
Right. Not a whole lot of people play Clan Defiance or Aurelia's Fury other than me in ridiculous combo decks.
Yeah, but those are fun cards to, tap out and just make your opponent just read the card, kind of read it a second time, and then shake their head as they die. Yeah. Terrible, flamey X-based death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw that Woody was able to stabilize there and just have a bunch of beefy guys, and understood the threat of the Madcap skills, and Vraska and Abrupt Decay is taking those down.
Yeah, Woody's definitely playing a more controlling version of Jund than the one that we saw Nick Delaney playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we saw that Woody also played very safe as well, which worked out very well for him, is that he didn't take any unnecessary risks to get himself blown out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a Lightning Strike, a Magma Jet, there are a handful of cards that if he had blocked in that situation, just leave him completely dead on board.
Yeah, I believe that if the Witchstalker had been going at the Xenagos, it probably would have been the correct play to block it.
Yeah, I believe so as well, because both the mana and just creating 2/2s, especially when you have Madcap skills, and you might just get into a chump race place where having an extra creature each turn is going to help you chump out.
Right, but when you have 2 coursers, the life isn't that big of an issue.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the gaining 2 life each turn for playing land is a beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
So we'll head into game 2 here with Cory Jones to be on the play. And so it'll be interesting to see what Cory has to help him punch through that last bit of damage, and how Woody... Because there's not really a good way to deal with a 3/3 hexproof creature in
Right.
Jund. Like, Mizium Mortars situationally could get there.
Perhaps a Devourer of Flesh from the sideboard.
Yeah, that is that's a possibility as well. But that's one of those where it's the card, if you have it, you definitely put it in, but it's one that might not always make your sideboard.
Exactly. It's not always the best, but it does get the job done.
Yeah, and we see the is that Paladin?
The Fiendslayer Paladin.
Fiendslayer Paladin. Yeah, and so it's a 2/2 first striker lifelink, and it can't be targeted by red or black spells?
Yes. Cannot be targeted by red or black spells.
So I believe that may have come out of the board for Cory, and that is definitely a Jund killer of a card.
Yeah.
That's all of the removal spells that Woody has in his deck.
Yep, and
Yeah, but it doesn't have pure protection, so it still has to fight its way through, and I'm not quite sure...
From the Eidolon of Countless Battles, I believe.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
It gives +1/+1 when it's bestowed to, or at all times, to itself or the bestowed creature for the number of creatures and auras you control.
Oh, okay, so yeah, it's the Big Daddy Spirit Mantle of the deck.
Yes. Makes me wonder if he's playing Ethereal Armor in the deck.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if he isn't. Yeah, it's just that we didn't see any of them come out in that first game where, yeah, one of those could have made a big difference. But yeah, we once again see the Courser of Krufix doing its job of having a big butt and gaining you your life as you're stabilizing.
And that card advantage of playing that top card.
Yeah. Yeah, it does so much for 3 mana. It just gives and gives and gives. Especially in a Jund deck where, you can be a little clunky and every little bit of advantage is going to be so valuable. And we see a Voice of Resurgence coming down for Cory, and then a Pacifism once again on the Courser.
That Pacifism is pumping up that Eidolon of Countless Battles.
Oh, that's a very good point. Some that we didn't really touch on in that first game is that, yeah, those are helping his enchantment counts. Yeah, so that's actually a very nice interaction. But yeah, as we see the Abrupt Decay take down the Eidolon.
Yes, the Eidolon costs only 3, even though you have to bestow it for 4.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things of Bestow being one of the more confusing mechanics to come out of lately.
Definitely see some people have struggles with it when they're first playing with it.
Yeah, luckily this was pretty straightforward. There's no strange rules interactions with Bestow here, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we see Woody has another Courser on top, which is going to be very valuable as the turns come forward. Yeah, and on this turn, be interested to see what comes down, because this is one of those pivotal turns with the 5 mana, being behind on board, but by no means dangerously out of reach.
Right.
And we see he takes the shock of 1 to play his land untapped, and then once again taking out
There
the
is an
hand.
ethereal armor in there.
Yeah, Ethereal Armor, and I believe that was another Eidolon as well, so
It's pacifism, madcap skills, and ethereal armor.
yeah, that was a hand that you can feel good about that decision there.
Yeah.
Those were all going to kill you very quickly.
Yeah, he could have played at least 2 of them and dealt quite a bit of damage.
It looks like we see another Abrupt Decay coming up on top. And yeah, one of the things that you see a lot of times with these Boggle-style decks is a lot of times, especially in Standard, to really get to where they want to be, they have to be 3-color. But they're also a deck that don't like getting above 3 mana either, so it's kind of interesting balancing that out.
Right.
So we see that second Courser coming down, and then gaining the 2 life as the Blood Crypt comes into play tapped.
Interesting play by Woody, choosing not to leave black up for the Abrupt Decay.
Well, the Abrupt Decay is on top, not in hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sadly it's not Future Sight, where he can just play whatever he wants off the top.
Sorry about that.
Alright, no worries. If you know the number of strange things I've said. So yeah, and we see that power again as there's a Forest on top, going right in, gaining 2 life, and essentially drawing the card. We see...
Stormbreath Dragon.
Yep, so that's going to help even things out here pretty quickly. We see Jund is a deck that does not mind getting a little flood on it on its land. You know, it's a deck that feels okay playing 28 land. You know?
It definitely has things to do with its mana.
And we see a Vraska coming down now, which is going to be taking down the Paladin, because it's no longer a spell, it's a permanent now, so it can target that Paladin down.
Right, one of the few outs that Woody has that doesn't involve combat.
And then
That is a Nylea's Presence,
I believe you are correct on that.
which is an interesting choice for an aggressive deck such as Cory's.
Yeah, well, part of it is, again, what I was talking about with the 3 colors of mana, is it's so easy to get stuck off of one color, because we saw he was mostly green game 1, and he couldn't get both red and white at the same time for
Right.
his Boros Charm.
And it does count for Eidolon Countless Battles and Ethereal Armor.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes, you know, when your mana's shaky, sometimes you just have to suck it up and play something that's going to give you a little fixing, but isn't going to give you the aggression you really want. And it looks like a Madcap skill coming down on that voice as well. And again, it'll be interesting to see if this is to Vraska or to Woody. I think at this juncture, being ahead on life, you may want to just get Vraska down. But we see the Abrupt Decay.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the things that... Yeah, that is going to give a token, though.
It is going to give him a token, but it will allow him to trade, or to kill the...
Yeah, it gets him... Yeah, it gets it so that he can block with just the Courser, and there'll be 2/2/2 tokens.
Yeah, draw only the good ones, right?
But yeah, I think Woody's trying to decide whether or not he's willing to give him another creature in exchange for getting rid of that Madcap skill, or if he just wants to show him the card, change his mind, and then do it on his turn, since he has a very good amount of mana. But yeah, no, he does decide to go with the plan of destroying the Madcap skill
Or
block.
destroying the Voice of Resurgence itself.
Oh, okay. I guess that's a little better.
Yeah, we're overthinking things a little bit here.
Exactly. It's generally the same effect with Cory being tapped out here.
We're so used to Cory just having creatures that he couldn't actually target.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Woody finally being able to interact a little bit more with the creatures. Yeah, so I think we see the Thoughtseize waiting on top for Woody.
Yeah, the 2/2s aren't a huge threat when Cory only has 1 card in hand.
That is very true, and we've seen that Woody's been able to stabilize, and even though we have Cory at 23, is much like we've seen with Stan, is it takes a lot of fuel to keep the engine going. Yeah, and so, if you're playing a more like mid-range or aggro deck, those 2/2 tokens would get much more out of control. But here, we're not expecting them to get very large. So Vraska is now living large with the full-size die on there, as Xenagos has joined the team of Planeswalkers.
Woody still has a rather full hand, so he's in a pretty good position.
Yeah, and it looks like he's activating Xenagos for a big
Storm Breath Dragon.
Storm Breath and a pass with the Storm Breath. So yeah, he's very concerned about Madcap's skills and something else to kill him, because he's at 12.
Yeah.
And we see another Nylea's Presence, and yeah, a pass by Cory. So that's not the type of turn Cory was going to have to really threaten here.
He is in a good position to where he can play practically anything he draws next turn, though.
Yeah, it's very true. But the problem is we're seeing that Woody each turn just gets farther ahead and farther ahead, especially with those Planeswalkers. And yeah, it looks like Cory could bear no more.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is that's one of those onslaught decks where you're just surviving their big crazy attack, and as long as you survive it, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and especially with all the creatures that Cory had out being white, the protection from White Dragon can block anything indefinitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is Woody's in no rush to win that game. Is he can take his time, ultimate a Planeswalker or two, just do whatever's going to make him feel happy. Like, that could be an assassin victory if we play that game all the way out.
Yeah. It's always fun to see assassin victories, but typically they don't play out that far.
So, there is a little exciting news. We just saw Woody finally break the streak.
Oh, yeah.
That was a victory for Woody on stream.
Well, good job, Woody.
Yeah, and so hopefully we'll be seeing much more success on camera for Woody in the future. And speaking of success here at Cosmic Comics, we got the list of our April Bellingham City Champion invites from Bellingham. And so the City Champion tournament is going to be Saturday, April 12th at noon at Dark Tower. And the top 10 finishers from Bellingham have qualified. So from top to bottom, we have Ty Visser with 10 points, Gary Goki with 6 points, Cory Jones with 5 points, Luis with 5 points, Woody with 5 points, Jasdeep with 5 points, Nick Delaney with 5 points, Rosie Crow with 3 points, Philip Ortega with 3 points, Dane with 2, and then the alternates are Baldeep and myself. So if somebody decides that they don't want to play, I may be able to sneak into the City Championship. Just saying. And I know
Then you'll be on the stream.
Exactly, and there'll be a role reversal. And I also know where my deck would probably be coming from that event as well. I believe there's a Brewster who I on occasion like to borrow decks from.
Yeah, me and Brad do like to brew a little bit.
Exactly. And you guys seem to brew on very parallel lines as well.
Yeah, we have very similar play styles in Magic.
Yeah, so you guys like to go, there's over the top, and then there's over the top.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie is basically the way you guys play Magic.
Yeah, he's a little bit more aggressive, and he likes to play things a little safer at the same time, and I like to be a little bit more extravagant in my deck building.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
we both like to play unusual things that not a lot of people see.
Exactly. The shock factor is half of the fun, right?
Yeah.
When you play a card and just every time that you get somebody to pick up one of your cards, look at it, and then put their head down in some form of shame, despair, frustration, that's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's always fun to see.
Yeah, so do you have any thoughts of what decks you think you might want to be seeing or playing in the future? Because I know that you definitely play and have good success, and we've seen you on stream before.
I've been wanting to try out a heroic deck that's blue-black and focuses on hidden strings combos, and it's definitely received a few cards from Born of the Gods that I haven't gotten around to testing.
So what would you call such a crazy deck?
When I was first coming up with the idea, I had been watching a lot of random movies. So I had recently watched Being John Malkovich, and it was about a puppet master, or a puppeteer. So the deck focused on hidden strings, so I decided to call it Being John Malkovich.
Yeah, I know because we worked on that deck quite a bit together, and I know that the Tormented Hero became our John Cusack of the movie.
Yes, definitely.
Well, yeah, so yeah, that's a very fun deck, and one that I've played quite a bit. And I know I like a little more aggressive, and you like more of the mid-range, grind you down sort of style.
Right. I definitely was trying to take the deck in a more control-ish fashion.
Yeah, where you want to be, locking down people with Agent of Fates and the 1/4 that taps people down. And
Wave Crash Triton.
Wave
yes.
Crash Triton, which is one of those cards when you see in a game, as I was talking before, be pick up, stare at it, and then lose to it.
It's one of those very good limited cards that doesn't see a whole lot of standard play.
Yeah, but when you're using that cipher ability to guarantee yourself every turn, those triggers, those heroic can get really out of control.
Right. It's a deck that I definitely want to try Painseer in.
Oh yeah, that'd be
the
great.
interactions with Hidden Strings and Painseer can get you some good card advantage.
Yeah, and that's one of the situations where it's hard in a lot of decks to get a Painseer through to guarantee those draws. When you're able to Hidden String, you can get at least one activation off pretty easily.
Right.
And I don't know if you're running the Aqueous forms that I love so very much, but that's another way that you can get
Yeah.
Painseer guarantees.
And the deck only runs 1 and 2 drops, so it doesn't have to worry about taking too much damage from it. And your Tormented Hero will gain you life back to counteract that as well.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a very exciting deck, and hopefully we'll be able to see that in the future. I believe we're currently still working on our top 4 match. So we have the Arena League going on down here as well currently.
Yeah, we have a Born of the Gods League where you enter for $15 and you get the same setup that we had for the pre-release, where you get 3 Theros packs, 2 Born of the Gods packs, and 1 special Born of the Gods packs that has a promo card. We don't allow you to play with the promo card, but it's still a good deal. The equivalent of 6 packs for $15.
Absolutely. And so are we just at the basically beginning of week 2? Is that about where we're at?
We're towards the end of week 2. Okay. We started on Mondays, and each Monday you can add another pack to your league deck.
Okay, perfect.
The final tournament for that will be the weekend before the pre-release, which is April 19th, I believe.
Okay, perfect. And do you want to tell me a little bit about your arena deck? I'm not actually familiar with it, but do you have anything? I see the mice turning in your brain.
It does have a Whip of Erebos and Grey Merchant, so
that's all you really need in life sometimes.
Yeah, and it's a red-black aggro mid-range deck. It has some Titan Strength and a Crone Crusaders, so you can have those really aggressive starts, and then it can finish off with Grey Merchant.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Grey Merchant and Titanic Strength seems like a lot of damage, just spread across very easily.
Yeah, I've had some games where turn 3 I play an Ashiok's Adept, and then
just crush
turn
their
4
hand.
I triple Titan Strength it and hit them for 10 while making them discard 3 cards.
That you also scry 3.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, you scry 1/1/1. So if you like your first card, you can keep it, but you don't get to see anything else.
It's definitely done good for me.
So, so I know that you're a big game aficionado. Are there any games that you're excited about for tomorrow with the tabletop?
I enjoyed watching the first batch of X-Wing games we had in the shop. We had a really good turnout for that, and I'm excited to see how many more people show up for it.
Yeah, so and that's one of the things is that we do have a very active tabletop community here with Pathfinder, with HeroClix.
Yes, we do have our regular HeroClix game going on this Saturday as well.
Yeah, and that's great opportunities that, if you play HeroClix, if you play Pathfinder, we have Pathfinder on Mondays. You want to come down, meet some people, play the game. Even just, if you've heard about Pathfinder, want to learn a little bit about it. It's the same with our Magic community, with our tabletop communities. Everybody's super supportive of new people, and we really want to expand, the gaming community here and give everybody the opportunity to meet, fun new people and play fun games.
Right, and even if you can't make it to Pathfinder on Monday, they have pickup games every once in a while, so if you just get a hold of one of them, they'll definitely be able to make sure you can play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to remind everybody that these streams are going to be going up onto our YouTube channel as well. So we actually have last week's is up on the Cosmic Comics YouTube channel, and this one will be joining it in our archives.
Yep.
Be able to look back on our old age and see how young and foolish we were.
Yeah, we'll definitely be getting on a more regular schedule of when they get put up, and it'll be more predictable, and you'll be able to know when to actually go look and watch them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I believe there's a Facebook page as well for Cosmic Comics. And one of the great things, if you like the Cosmic Comics page, is that there's actually an event schedule that's posted every month on there as well.
Yep. We have the event schedule posted both online and in the store.
And so that way you can see from day to day, Monday's Pathfinder, special events sneaking in here and there. Just really give you an idea of what type of games are going on so you can come down and play.
Speaking of special events, the first Saturday of May, May 3rd, will be Free Comic Book Day.
Those are always fun days to just get a handful of good readings.
Yeah, we'll be having huge sales. Just come on in. We'll have free comic books and very cheap comic books. You'll definitely be able to find something you'll enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't do better than free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know another one of your big hobbies is you're an avid video game collector.
Yeah, I am a big video game collector.
Yeah. We actually have our back to your apartment currently. It is filled top to bottom with beautiful, rare, exotic games.
Yes, I've only been collecting for about 2 years now, but my collection is about 385 games across all consoles, and I have, I believe, 18 consoles connected to my TV at the moment.
So it's basically a tangled web of cords.
Yes, it's not that tangled, but there's quite a few cords.
Right. So is there any game that holds a special place in your heart?
There's quite a few, but
Well, let me put it another way. Was there any game that when you acquired it, it gave you the most joy for that victory of acquiring this game?
I recently acquired Mega Man Legends 2, and it's a fairly pricey game.
Yeah, it's a fairly rare game.
But I tracked down a copy of the disc on Craigslist, which had a Blockbuster sticker on it and no
Ooh.
case.
That's one of those like full disc stickers too.
Yeah, it's a clear sticker with like the Blockbuster logo on it, and it goes over the entire disc. And it was just the disc, but I knew that a local store had just the case, so I managed to put them together.
Yeah, the true niche collector item there.
Right.
The video game case.
Yeah, not a lot of people buy cases without games.
But it is pretty exciting to be able to know that you can find that once you find the disc.
Right. Yeah, I had seen them acquire that case a few months previous and assumed that it was still there, and I was right.
I have to ask, how much was it that they just knew at some point you'd buy it from them?
I don't think they knew, because I typically don't buy games without cases.
Gotcha.
So
I know you are a frequent visitor there, though.
yes, Finders Keepers, they have a fairly good video game collection, so I check in on them every once in a while to see if they have anything new.
Absolutely.
Or they line.
So I know you were also recently at the Emerald City Comic Con that was held in Seattle, I believe this past weekend?
Yes, this past weekend was Emerald City Comic Con.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that experience?
Emerald City Comic Con has been growing greatly over the past couple of years. It was approximately a third larger than it was last year.
Well, that's a very large increase.
Yeah, last year they were only on one floor of the Seattle Convention Center. This year they were on one floor completely filled and rooms on 2 or 3 other floors, as well as sending all the gaming, which include Magic and HeroClix and all of these games that we have here, over to the 3rd floor of the Sheraton next door.
Okay, wow. So yeah, it's quite a bit of expansion.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun though, and definitely suggested for any game enthusiasts or comic enthusiasts.
So is there any particular swag that you were especially proud of picking up down there?
Yeah, I got a couple sketches done by artists. In particular, one I got done by Nick Pitara. He's the artist of a book called The Manhattan Projects, which is written by Jonathan Hickman, and it's a historical sci-fi book that's an alternate take on what happened with the real Manhattan Project.
Yeah, the what-if style of comics?
Where they're, crazier experiments than just the atomic bomb.
Yeah, those are always fun. I believe, there's Teddy Roosevelt, or was it Franklin Roosevelt?
FDR.
Yeah, FDR. Franklin Roosevelt's a prominent character in those comics.
Yes, he's one of them. He's a very unique character in that book. No spoilers here, so.
Okay, I've tried to get spoilers, but yeah, who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll be on the comic book club.
Yeah.
So we don't want to spoil it for them.
Exactly.
Let's see.
So at the end of April is Journey to Nyx.
Okay, yeah, the final set in the Theros block.
Yeah, it's pre-releases April 26th and 27th.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be having events for that. I'm not 100% sure if we'll be streaming yet, but that's definitely something that will work out well before then.
Yeah, we might stream 1 or 2 of the events. Probably not all of them.
Yeah, because that would be a long day for everybody involved.
Yes, that would be a really long day. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what kind of, since spoiler season's coming up, see what...
Yeah, we have a new we suspect a new batch of gods.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see if they continue on the path that we saw here.
I assume there will be We've seen some art for Farika.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that there will be at least the enemy color gods, and I'm hoping to see a 5-color god.
That is always the, end result that you're always hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, I predicted how the devotion would work for the color gods, so I'm assuming that there will be a 5-color god that requires devotion to like 13.
At least 10.
Yeah, at least 10.
I could see that where you'd have to have somehow, double it.
Right.
You know what would be really crazy? If it required devotion of 1 of each color beyond. So if you had to have devotion to 2 of each color, basically.
That would be pretty crazy.
But that would definitely be the way to guarantee that if you're playing that and want to make it a man, that you're living the dream of 5-color.
Right.
And so...
Awkward commentating. We just sit there.
Looks like about a minute left on this.
Okay.
So we'll be starting our final round? The final round in a minute or so.
It's the top 4, but they drew.
Yeah, so...
Okay.
So, are there any comics that have been keeping your attention lately? 'Cause I know that there's a pretty big variety of a bunch of very different comics here at Cosmic.
Yeah, there's a lot of different comics. There's the usual Marvel and DC superhero stuff, which DC has a weekly series coming out.
Okay,
which is they actually have 2 coming out soon, but one starting next week is Batman Eternal, which is plotted out by Scott Snyder, who is a big fan favorite. He had the longest lines of any writer at Comic-Con.
Okay, yeah. That's a pretty good barometer of success.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically one of the only writers from DC when they relaunched that is still writing the same book.
Okay, wow.
So it's been about 3 years that he's been on Batman now. And he has a book called The Wakeout right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that book is very good. It's a 10-issue miniseries. They're on issue 7 or 8 now, so it's almost over. But the first part is kind of a sci-fi horror book, and then it skips 200 years into the future, and it's kind of like Waterworld, but even crazier.
That is quite the jump.
Yeah, it's a crazy book, and I definitely suggest it for anyone that's looking for a book to read.
Absolutely, and that's one of the nice things about getting comics here is if there's a comic series that you're liking and following, you can actually get a subscription where you'll be guaranteed a copy of it every time that it comes out.
Yeah, and you get at least 10% off depending on how many comics you're subscribed to here.
Yeah, that's a very nice just reward of, guaranteeing that you're getting your comics and then getting a little discount as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like we're getting ready here for our top 4 matchup.
All I have to do is put in the overlay.
All right, perfect. So we're going to be seeing Woody versus Brad.
Okay, so we know what to expect from these 2 decks.
Yeah, so these are decks that we've both seen, and grindy, I think, is a good way to describe how this match will most likely go.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a war of attrition.
It could turn out well for Brad because of the Fleecebane lines.
Yeah, Brad is definitely the player that's more likely to curve out aggressively and just win from the quick creatures, and because there are a lot of awkward Jund hands where you just can't really do anything for the first 3 or so turns.
Yeah, especially for the more control-y versions of Jund, like Woody's deck.
Yep. So yeah, let's get into this match and see who's going to falter at top 4 and who's going to be going into the top 2 to split that out. So we see that Brad is leading off with the tapped Hallow Fountain, and then the green-red Scryline with the Abrupt Decay being scryed by Woody. And Woody decides to leave it on top, which is a good choice knowing, again, that aggressive nature that Brad's deck can have.
Yeah, the Abrupt Decay is definitely better early in the game when Brad won't be able to play Fleece Mainline and Monstrosity at the same time.
And it looks like we see Hero's Downfall on top as well, so even though he doesn't have black currently in play, or even black in play, yeah, is that Woody is well armed with removal for this game. And then we see the Voice of Resurgent coming down for Brad, which is a very good response to a handful of spot removal.
Yeah.
Because it's just begs, it says, hi, I'm a 2-for-1. And you also have to do it on your turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now they're both just kind of establishing their mana a little bit, as we see the first half of the black coming down there for Woody. And then our Voice crashing in to do some damage, getting Woody down to 18. And so we see Polychronos as well in the hand with a Blood Crypt. To get
Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, so that is an action hand to say the least for Woody. Yeah, it's just a little pricey, but once that mana clears up.
He's missing a few of his earlier drops like Caryatid and Courser.
Yeah, and so it's just what we were talking about before, where Jund can have those little slower, clunky draws, but Brad's draw was definitely not the type that punishes it. But yeah, I think we're seeing what we saw before. Ooh. And that's one of the great things when you have multiple instances. You can threaten counterspell and then Advent of the Worm end of turn.
Exactly. Being able to counter something, and which it got Abrupt Decayed, but still very good.
Exactly. And whether or not he actually has the counterspell is win-win.
Yeah,
because
you
can
threaten it.
Yeah, because you threaten it and you're like, okay, you didn't play a spell, I had it. But you're still saying, yeah, I kind of still had it anyway. And so it'll be interesting to see as as Brad continues to leave mana up and attacks in for 2. And so yeah, there's a Xenagos as well as 2 heroes downfall in Woody's hand, so it's pure gas.
Yeah,
but
Xenagos is a good counter to the Voice of Resurgence.
Yeah, but there's it's interesting to see where he's going to start out, because he starts out with the Polychronos and drawing the card off of Azorius Charm, so yeah, he definitely got Brad definitely got Woody to think about the counterspell. So we see the Detention Sphere taking that Polychronos, and the aggression from the Voice of Resurgence continuing to beat down, and has Woody all the way down to 14 already, with an empty board.
Right. It's a good play out by Woody playing the Polychronos first instead of the Xenagos, in case Brad did have a Detention Sphere, because that's Brad's only answer to Xenagos.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Xenagos, those creatures are able to trade with the Voice of Resurgence and just build you an unstoppable force, or, again, what we're seeing Woody use it for is for building up his mana more for those big Rakdos returns, those big Polychronos activations. Monstrous in this gentleman here who continues to play defense against 2/2s.
Yeah, it's very good at blocking 2/2s.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing, is when we saw how much action is in Woody's hand, it's very understandable that he's going to continue to be conservative with it.
It's unusual to see Woody playing such a conservative deck as this. He's typically a much more aggressive player.
Yeah.
With his red decks that play just 1 and 2 drops.
Yeah, no, as soon as Sturtz came out, he was on mono blue before it was popular as well.
Right, he definitely played mono blue almost card for card the same before the Pro Tour happened.
Yeah, so yeah, we see the dragon choosing to be aggressive now here, and yeah, after that Azorius Charm, it makes Woody believe that the gates are open here to resolve whatever big scary Veraska or Xenagos that he wants to get here. And he can even Xenagos make a 2/2 and have heroic Hero's Downfall, the Voice of Resurgence as well here. And so let's see whether he's going to add some mana into the pool or if he's just going to make a 2/2. And it looks like this is where the centaurs are coming in.
Yeah, with only one creature, the mana is not good enough to warrant using that instead of making a 2/2.
And so there's the Sphinx Revelation that we were talking about before from Brad's deck to really help him recover and get the fuel that he needs to catch back up here.
Yeah, Sphinx Rev for 4 is huge here.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Brad's, completely refueled and undone a lot of the work that's come from some of Woody's creatures. So we see him, so that's
Martial Law?
Martial Law again. Two Martial Laws. So 2 creatures on Brad's upkeep are going to be detained. Unfortunately, I do not believe they can target that Stormbreath Dragon. So it's, right now, that 2/2 token is probably going to be getting detained next turn.
Yes, that 2/2, and if he makes another 2/2, that one as well.
Exactly. Not exactly what you want to be doing with your Martial Laws. But he does... I don't think you just Veraska one of those, because I don't see it having a huge impact with you having your dragon just being able to get right through those.
Yeah, I think with the dragon, he's still in a very good position.
Yeah, and Woody's, just going for that build an army of centaurs.
Eventually he'll have enough satyrs to where the Martial Laws won't matter at all.
And, it looks like he's monstrous-ing as... That is a pretty good way to deal with someone who just Sphinx Rev'd.
Yeah.
So all that life gained back, most of it's gone back down, so that's going to push Brad down to 14, and then there's a 7/7 flying dragon and 2 2/2s with haste coming in.
Yeah, since they won't be able to block because it's detained, might as well attack them.
Yeah, exactly. And we can see, with that monstrous in, and Brad being tapped out as well, there's no fear there. Yeah, and so he detains the 2 centaurs, so those guys will not be able to attack, block, or use their activated abilities until the next upkeep, or until Brad's next upkeep.
He puts a syncopate at the bottom.
Yeah, it's not gonna get you out of the situation.
Yeah, especially when he has as much mana as he does.
And we do see the Supreme Verdict dealing with the dragon and putting the 1/1 into play. But we're gonna see Xenagos again just continuing to make guys. Yeah,
And we definitely has the answer to that token.
Speaking of answers, the answer to the entire hand of Brad just got drawn in that Rakdos' return. It can be for... Let's see, so again, we know that Brad plays Syncopate, so do you Rakdos around Syncopate?
Possibly?
Or you know what? Brad is at 3, so Dissolve I think is the bigger issue than Syncopate. I think you do want to leave up 1 more mana than that, probably, just so that you don't lose to Syncopate. Yep, but looks like there was not a Syncopate in hand anyway, so we see the Rakdos return taking Brad down.
Yeah, the Rakdos returns. It's a very strong card. Early game, you get rid of their hand. Late game, you just kill them.
Yeah, we see how valuable those Planeswalkers are for the Jund deck. Because, quick Wrath of God, he didn't even have to do anything to redevelop his board.
Right. No matter which version of Jund you're playing, your Planeswalkers are a huge deal. The more aggressive versions using Domri Raid to just draw your huge creatures, and the more controlling ones to use Xenagos as your win condition and mana ramp.
Yeah, and in both of those decks, against the aggro decks, you're a lot better equipped to defend them, because you have cards like Courser of Krufix, which is, a 2/4.
Yeah.
It's very good at playing defense. You have Sylvan Caryatid, which is the same 0/3 Shroud, not Shroud, Hexproof. So again, it's a defensive creature that is, they can't really kill. So it's very easy to protect those Planeswalkers and let them do whatever big, crazy, scary thing they'd like to do. So let's head into Game 2 here and see what's going to push somebody way over the top. So we're seeing Polychronos and a whole bunch of lands, as well as a Duress and something else for Woody. Looks like a black card. And so we see Breeding Pool coming down for Brad. And I believe that's Overgrown Tomb for Woody.
Yes. Overgrown tomb, indeed.
Then we see Voice of Resurgence. And can't quite see what Woody drew there.
It was a Sylvan Caryatid.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it is nice that Woody is giving us the open fan, so we can mostly see his hand. So I think he's thinking about duressing here, which is both letting him know what Brad's going to be up to, as well as the possibility of getting rid of future counter
He does have a
spells.
Thoughtseize, so it could be that instead.
That is true, yeah. The Thoughtseize guarantees that you'll hit, and I think that's what he's thinking about. Brad just hands him his hand face down. And so we see Detention Sphere, ooh, that Witch Stalker, and then Negate and Syncopate.
That is a very good hand for Brad.
Well, I think one of the things is once you take that Witch Stalker, there's not a lot else that's going on. Like, you do have the Voice of Resurgence creating some pressure, and you have enough in a spell to keep Woody off of the board for a little bit. But I think with that Duress in hand, it's going to be able to just eat another counter spell or be able to take Detention Sphere if he doesn't have the mana for it. I think this is a pretty strong position for Woody. But I think it's without question for me personally, I'd be taking that Witch Stalker.
Yeah,
Like, I'd be slamming it.
the Witch Stalker is probably the correct choice.
Yeah, because, yeah, when you're a spot removal deck and there's a hexproof guy, that's already something that makes you uncomfortable. And you can outclass him with Polychronos, but we can see that Woody, I don't think, has quite as much mana. Like, I don't think he's automatically on the 4 yet.
He does have at least one more land than a Caryatid, so he should be in a fairly good position.
Yeah, and I think there might be something in his hand that he's... Like, I think there's a Xenagos that he doesn't want to get Detention Sphered. I think that might be what some of the decision is here. Or he's just afraid of the counter magic. Because, yeah, Syncopate and Negate are both very efficient ways of countering the big, both Planeswalkers and just some of the big, you know, Rakdos returns, big scary things that Woody can do once he gets all of his mana really ramped up. So, yeah, it looks like he just wants to get the permission out of the way and takes the Syncopate.
His Duress will probably take care of the Negate.
Yeah, so that makes it so he can just guarantee that, yeah, whatever he wants to resolve can resolve now. Or Detention Sphere. Interesting.
Okay, he did have a shock land, so he could do that. Okay.
Yeah, walk out the front door.
Yeah, so it looks like he went with the Detention Sphere instead of the Negate, which is an interesting choice. Yeah, we see just the attack again by the Voice of Resurgence and the pass. And so, yeah, it looks like, I believe Woody did draw a land.
And then he has another Thoughtseize.
Yep, so, yeah, the dissection continues. It's like a frog in a 5th grade class right now. That is the fate of Brad's hand. And, yeah,
There goes the
negates.
Negate.
Yep. Keep that one card that Brad's drawn a mystery.
And now he probably is going to play a Caryatid.
Yep. And so, yeah, he's shocking himself once again down to 12 to play the Caryatid. But, yeah, that Caryatid, while shocking, you know, it's going to prevent the 2 damage that would have come from that Voice of Resurgence anyway. And then we
Looks
see...
like-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, the Witch Stalker. Yeah.
Yeah, the Caryatid's not stopping the Witch Stalker, but we see a Mistcutter Hydra joining the hand, which probably won't come down. It could come down this turn as a 4/4 on defense. But yeah, it looks like we're seeing the Scry and a Rakdos return on top, which is, yeah, definitely something that I'd like to see Kate stay in on top. And then, yeah, Polychronos.
It's a little bit better than a,
Yeah, it's
than
a little-
4/4 Mistcutter Hydra.
I guess it's slightly better. Just choosing the correct Hydra to play at each time. And so, looks like Woody, or I believe Brad just passed back, and then Woody draws that Rakdos return.
And he'll probably try to get rid of Brad's hand here.
Yeah. So he's leaving, yeah, just doing it for 2, leaving 1 up with the Caryatid, and we see the Advent of the Worm in response. So he gets the 5/5 Worm and loses a Sphinx Revelation.
Which isn't too big of a deal since Brad only has 4 lands.
Yeah, but once you've had your hand stripped away, you know, losing those Sphinx Revelations is how you refuel. So he just lost his, his ability to refuel, really. But yeah, we see 5/5. So he'll be... That's the thing, is Polychronos can can Monstrous next turn, and then it'll be able to outclass that Advent Worm. But he's still in a little bit of trouble here, because it'll leave a 3/3 token if he just kills the Voice of Resurgence.
It looks like he's going to Abrupt Decay that worm token.
Yeah, so, which is a nice, efficient answer to a big, splashy, more expensive card.
He's considering it because that will also pump the Witch Stalker.
Yeah. Or is this still the end of Brad's turn? No, it was his turn, so he could have done that on... Yeah, and so we see the
Fleece Main Line.
the Fleece Main Line coming down.
Which isn't too big of a threat at the moment, but one more land.
Yeah,
and
part of it is Woody's at 7 here as well, so just outnumbering the amount of threats is a big deal. Yeah, and Woody tempted to create a token by accident, thinks better of it, and draws into Duress, which is not really what you're hoping for with having just completely dismantled your opponent's hand. But we see he has the Abrupt Decay and the Hydra here. Yeah, so Woody's Duressing just so that he knows what's going on. And, ooh, that's a backbreaker right there, the second Sphinx Revelation. Yeah, so it's going to be much harder for Brad to be able to recover from the situation. And that's the thing, because Woody, I think, is very close to stabilizing.
yeah, he's
But
been dominating the hand game while Brad has been stable or on the board.
yeah, it's still very, very close, because Brad is still at 18, and at 7, it doesn't take a lot for Brad to be able to get through those last points to steal this game. It looks like it's just a draw pass by Brad. So we see Woody untapping and drawing yet another Duress.
You can never have too many Duresses.
If there's one thing that Woody hates, is other people having things. So he must break all of their things.
He especially, yeah, he just doesn't like them having things. You're right about that.
Yeah, stripping minds of thoughts. But yeah, so part of it is, I don't know how many, yeah, he's going to Duress just to see, and
he hits a Mystic Genesis.
these are painful to watch as this continues to dissect every good hit card that Brad draws that he can't quite cast yet.
Brad does get another Witch Stalker, which is very difficult for Woody to deal with.
Yeah, so we see a Courser Crewfix coming down, which is going to help both play some defense, draw a card there, and gain some of the life back that he's been losing, so he's not just on the place where Brad just outnumbers him with creatures and finishes him off.
It's definitely going through all that land that's on top of his deck.
I don't actually know what's tapped and untapped on Woody's side, so he may or may not be able to Abrupt Decay. I honestly just don't know.
I just asked him that question.
Yeah, it looks like Brad is having the same questions as well. Of figuring out the mana. As we talked before, like, Jund mana is very complicated. You can see, yeah, he has red, black, green, green in some combination there. So yeah, continues to find these lands, and not just lands, but scry lands as well. So he's drawing cards, gaining life, and getting card selection in a very pivotal part of this game.
Yeah, he's had 4 lands in a row on the top, so it's very important.
Yeah, and there's a Polychronos as well. And we see that Brad does have the mana now to Monstrous, but I think he knows about the Abrupt Decay and doesn't want to spend his mana, try to Monstrous, and have it Abrupt Decayed and not even get a token because it's on Woody's turn.
Right. You definitely want to wait till the last minute, especially in this situation where the Polychronos is the only thing that can kill it. On the field, anyways.
Exactly, and it's even a way to just counter the Polychronos as well, as you just get Monstrous, and in response I can make my guy indestructible.
Yeah, it's interesting that he did Woody scry when he left that Polychronos on top?
I think he might have seen it and not bothered to scry. I think he implicitly scried.
Okay, that's an interesting choice when you already have Polychronos in play.
Well, I think That is true. Yeah, I mean, part of it is you can get some aggression, you can activate it, and then play another one, and then have another activation as well, as we see often with the new legend rule.
He forgets to leave his Rakdos returns revealed.
Yeah, and Brad reminds, as Brad is also putting quite a bit of damage on his fingernails. But yeah, you can definitely say that this match is the definition of a nail biter, as both players are really just on the edge of breaking through, but neither can get past this war of attrition.
As Kagan guessed, it would be a very board stalling game.
Yeah, and we see that Advent Worm coming, yeah. I don't know what you call the token, Worm token, coming in. We could quite easily see Polychronos just getting in there and being able to trade with our Voice of Resurgence.
Yeah, he could definitely block and kill that voice.
Yeah. And there's a good chance that there might be some tricks from that Brad's trying to draw out here, but no, it looks like just knowing that second Polychronos, just trading it down because he knows that Woody's willing to trade it off. And then, yeah, that Rakdos return.
And there's the fourth duress?
Yeah, fourth duress. But when you have the Rakdos return, like, duress typically isn't the big thing that you need to do too much.
Yeah.
Although, if there is a counter spell, you can guarantee that your Rakdos return will resolve now.
Right, which is very important for Rakdos returns. You don't want that spell countered.
Yeah. But again, with the stripped state of Brad's hand and him being at 16, like, Rakdos returning here doesn't give you a ton of value. Because you're getting the card he drew last turn that he decided not to play, and an amount of his life that isn't super relevant right now. And that's not the way you want to be spending a whole turn.
Yeah, that Rakdos returns will probably not get played unless it's killing him.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's just what we were talking about before is that Brad went to Monstrous and then got decayed on Woody's turn so that he doesn't get the counter from the Voice of Resurgence at all. Yeah, we can see as well that there's a Supreme Verdict taking down this very mucked up board, and a 1/1 token is all that's left at the end of that staring contest that we saw for several turns. But that Courser did a lot of good work getting Woody all the way back up to 11 here.
Yeah, the Courser is the all-star of Born of the Gods.
Yeah, I think this is just going to be a giant Rakdos. The giant. Forgot about that guy. He's been hanging out in hand all game.
Yeah, that Miscutter Hydra that wasn't a 4/4.
Exactly. It's an 8/8 now. So it's doubled up a bit. Yeah. Brad decides that his 1/1 token is a excellent person to step in front of a Hydra and make a
Especially
little sacrifice.
knowing that Woody has the Rakdos returns in hand.
Exactly, yeah. You don't want to go to 8 knowing that he doesn't even need to just attack you next turn. He can spell you next turn. And duressing for the worm that gets to come into play. But yeah, that's the thing, is that worm still isn't enough to deal with a Hydra. And we see Veraska coming down, so yeah, worm token is removed from this game state. Yeah. And yeah, we see the scoop by Brad there. And so, very intense match, to say the least.
Yeah, you can definitely see the grinding power of Jund decks.
Exactly. And yeah, that was the thing, is it's hard for any deck to recover from having, 4 cards stripped out of your hands in the first 5 turns or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's not really coming back from that. Like,
yeah, he had at least 3 cards taken out in the first 3 turns.
And it was the cards that you really want late game, too. Yeah. Like, that was the hard part. So it made that late game a much more anemic for Brad.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was overall a very good match, and we saw... Like, it was interesting to see that Woody continued that very, very conservative play throughout the match. But it really worked out for him.
Yeah. With Jund, you definitely need to be more conservative, and the aggressive, especially with this version of the deck, the more aggressive plays can get you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I think the big card that I'd say, besides all the hand disruption that was the hero, was that Courser of Crufix. Because it really got him out of the danger zone multiple times in this match.
Yeah, the Courser was very good in both matches we saw Woody play. It was also very good when Nick played it, but not quite enough.
Yeah, and so that's going to be leaving Woody splitting for the top 2.
With Rosie.
With Rosie. And Rosie was not on the Jund deck. What was the
Rosie
Rosie
was
on?
playing mono blue, I believe.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah. It switched decks, more or less, Woody and Rosie.
Yeah,
did,
they definitely switched decks from last week.
which keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing is, sometimes you can get a little bored playing the same deck over and over and over again. So, yeah, it's nice to have friends that you can do, little deck exchanges with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw an exciting night. We saw some Cyclopses coming in. We saw people getting milled out. Just in general, interesting night of Magic.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we sign off tonight?
Nope.
Shrug's a good way to put it. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Kagan,
I'm Jeremy.
and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Awesome.